Yay, I'm live. Hooray. How is everyone doing? I guess I'm gonna have to wait for some people to actually show up, but yeah, I'll get right to work. Again, the links spread out to everyone. You know, all those lovely Discord servers that really likes Let's See Casted Wars of Liberty streams. So I'm gonna start from top to bottom, or actually bottom to top, which I usually like to do, and everybody else will know that we're here and we're ready to go. Get a share of a linky. That's good. Yep, you can hear me, right? Yep, mic's connected. So now I'm going to start sending the stream everywhere. Hopefully we get lots of visitors. Start with the Wars of Liberty server. Could also do one to the ping the Wars of Liberty multiplayer server. That's probably the most important one, right? Yeah, that's where all these casted games come from. So yeah, definitely got a shout out to those Juanitos Bonitos. Without them, none of these casted streams would even be possible. So bless everyone from that server for doing so many games. Even when I've not had a lot of time to do games myself, you know. They've done a plethora of 1v1s and treaty games and team games and, you know, a good variety for me to cover. So if you really like this variety of streaming for Wars of Liberty, you can thank the Juanito Bonito community for all these recordings that I thankfully get to give to you. Yep, they certainly do a very good job of keeping up with gameplay and keeping it recorded too. And I'll ValorSync either, which I've been pretty impressed with, you know, because I know in Diviv Edition they have kind of a plague of ValorSync on certain files, but we've done pretty well on the Wars of Liberty side, I think. You know, pretty consistent. Pretty consistent. Now I'm gonna press send a link to this one. Yeah, I mean, I could send one there, I guess. Yeah, anywhere is good. How far am I along? Probably about halfway done. Yep, sent that to the official AoE server. Who else do we got in the roster? Do the Brazil one. That might be an interesting choice. I got a lot of servers I sent links to for uploads, you know. That's sort of the thing you should do when you're YouTubing in any game, not just Age of Empires. Find lots of Discord servers with lots of people that like the game that you're doing and just put your links there if they offer an option to. Obviously, don't go spamming in some random Discord server when they clearly have rules that you shouldn't do that, but if they have like a spot for content creators, for gameplay clips or highlights, yeah, that can be a great place to get your channel really rolling with people that might not even know who you are, because I think what happens 99% of the time is when you're starting out a channel for gaming, people aren't going to know who you are, you know, unless you're like super famous like Viper or the Rapple and AOM, or unless you have that established name already. It can be really hard finding new people. They're going to want to see what you do when there's so many other voices out there trying to do the same message. Yeah, it can get pretty tricky, and that's why you have to be the loudest sometimes, just to let people know that you're there and what you're doing is really neat, you know. And obviously the second part is making sure what you do is also pretty neat, because if it's not, they'll go like, oh, okay, I've seen this, and, you know, it's okay, but it's not great either, so, you know, you gotta work on that side of it too. But before you even get there, you just have to find avenues to get those links looked at and make sure that the stuff you're putting in there is of some substantial quality, for sure. Yep, and it's something I learned early on too, so I was pretty good about that early on, I think, and I slowly increased my library of servers that I could send links to, always checking the regulations on them, making sure, hey, they're fine with me sending these links to people as much as I need to get the word out, so very fortunate to have many communities willing to do that as well. Yep. Almost done, I think. I think we got about probably 2 more links I have to do. That one and one more. We're up there. Beautiful. I think I got them all. Yeah, that was done pretty speedy. Saga Y Black, yes, when can we play a game, Stoletzi? That's a good question. Gonna have to see when probably closer to the weekend I'll be more available for doing matches. You know, during the week it's kind of hard to fit in stream time and doing some of the more organized tests I have to do for the channel. Takes a bit of time to get going, for sure. So yeah, most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. Hopefully everybody's getting ready for a good stream today. I'll start doing matches at the 10-minute mark like I do for just about all my streams where I'm casting stuff. I already got about 5 recordings for us to work with for now. I took the ones from the most recent list of stuff on the Wars of Liberty multiplayer server. I think it was all team games with various civs. I think it was 2v2s and 3v3s for the most part. So we're going to be covering a lot of stuff today, just so you'll be ready for that. Yeah, the biggest thing I notice both in DE and Wars of Liberty is making sure that I actually name the files into something substantial, just in case if the players themselves don't do that for me. I know at least for HVNI on the DE side, he's always very good about giving unique names to his recordings, so I have a mental note of that's the one I want to check and not the other ones. But on the Wars of Liberty multiplayer side, a lot of people just have it called record game 1, like the one that the game creates for you, and that can always pose a bit of a problem because, you know, eventually you have 100, 1,000 even record game 1s on there, and you're like, which one is the one I actually want to do? So a way I combat that is once I download, I see what civs are played, I come up with a mental note of a civ word or a map word or something like that about the match that I know will be good for it, and then I plop it in. We should get a game going, man. Yeah, definitely. You know, I'm curious, how have you been doing in your learning of the game so far? I remember last time you're still learning a few things with the civs that you were playing. You think now you can hold your own a bit more now? In the team games at least? Yeah. Yeah, it's always good to improve your skills in Wars of Liberty, you know. It's like me and Stefan were basically talking about last week. Wars of Liberty is a lot like chess and some of those games that require a lot of commitment. It's mostly learning the different skills, and the more you practice those skills, you just really master them really quickly, and you can replicate them yourselves very fast. It's really important that you can do that for sure. Alright, so I think we should be ready to look at some matches now. I'm just going to make sure I'm all charged and plugged in so we don't lose a battery during this. And yes, indeed, there have been some times when I accidentally had the laptop not charged in and the recording was lost. So make sure you never do that if you're going to run a channel either. it can not only cost you the recording, if it's a ranked game, it can also cost you that ELO points as well. So make sure you don't do that, folks. It's really, really important not to do that. Also, if people are watching the stream, let me know if the graphics looks messed up at all when we're going through the games. Definitely have to make sure we keep watch of that too. I did improve the bike quality a bit, so it shouldn't be too bad in terms of the performance, I don't think. So what's one of the ones I did here? So this one here is one that I added in today, so we can start with this one. Serbi, because it has Serbian Civ in it. Bar is loading right now, and we should be ready to go. Eventually. Alright, so, okay, so who do we got in this team? We got a Sagawai Black, El Tieta, and an Eternity, Juanita Boliviana, facing off against Rommel, Mandalore, and Sask. So a nice solid 3v3 here. And what civs do we got? We got the Danish, got the cheese Danish, we got the Serbs, the kebab removers, we got the Swedes, the IKEA furniture people, we got the Incas, the Rainbow Coalition civ because of their flag, I guess. Juanita Boliviana playing Ethiopia because he plays Ethiopia, and Ethiopia is pretty scary in this game. And Japan, could you really imagine Sask playing anything else other than Japan these days? Yeah, he really likes Japan, and he's pretty good at. You know, last week we saw him take a pretty nice win where he beat 2 players all by himself, like MVP. So, I mean, Sask is getting up there in skill, for sure. So, what map are we on? It looks like we're on either Saguenay or Hudson Bay. I didn't quite see what the exact map is, but in general, you got some nice Cree and Wendat or Huron natives on here to use, and then you get a nice trade route as well that winds through the map like this. See, it's pretty good. You know, I really like this map myself. And even if Japan wanted to do some like fishing stuff, they could absolutely do it up in the bay itself in this area. Though it is, you know, at the midway point, so players could put their docks over here and start flying their ships at you, so you have to be totally careful of that. 100%. So now we're going to boot this thing up, and we're going to see who ends up winning this thing. Who the victor will actually be. What team has what it takes to be the legendary MVPs of this. So, where do we begin? We got so many civs to look at. So we got Japan. Japan's probably one of the easiest ones to explain. You know the civ from Legacy, from Definitive Edition. They work really the same way here, but there are a couple of roster differences, right? You got the Kie, which is a firearm unit instead of a archer unit, like the Yumi Bowman was. In general, their unit stats work just about the same as they do in DE, and have just about all the same cards. Biggest thing I would say that's different is their consulate options. You know, they got different units for their isolationism, and they also have different units with their allies as well, whether you're looking at the Dutch, the Portuguese, or the United States, right? You don't get Spain anymore as the Japanese, you actually get the United States. Gives you some nice leatherneck marines, some mounted riflemen, and some Gatling guns. So, pretty good variety. Yeah, looks like Sask is going for the Portuguese consulate here to cheapen the cost of his shrines as well as his wonders, right? Because believe it or not, since wonders are buildings, the Portuguese allies will cheapen the food costs of your wonders when you're aging up, allowing you to age up a little bit quicker. And I see Sask really likes that feature quite a bit since I've seen him do it before. Eternity's playing Ethiopia here. Ethiopia is a monster civ. Very scary to deal with. Why do I say that? Because they get a lot of stuff going for them. Simply put, their blue library technologies actually increase the hit points of their buildings a little bit. Their yellow text at the library actually gives them crates of food, which ramps their age up very quickly. And to top that off, their red library techs give increased damage to defensive buildings as well as gunpowder units. So there's a lot of stuff working in Ethiopia's favor. And you'll notice this little free queue here. It gives you something called a porter. And what a porter is, it's just like a Native American travois. It can turn into any sort of building you want it to be. It could become a house, called an apartment, become a garrison, which is like sort of like your early game military units. Cantonments are mid game units. Palaces like your super late game units, as well as acting as a fort. So you can make anything with these porters, right? And every town center of the Ethiopians has this free queue over time to make porters. So the more town centers you put down, the more free buildings you can inevitably get with more hit points, of course. Making Ethiopia a really good turtle civ that also gets a very strong roster. From things like Tigray Lancers and Oromo, which are melee, to their Mehel Safari, anti-skirm / anti-artillery skirmishers. They get a pretty sizable variety of unique units to work with. So you definitely have to be on the lookout for them. Inca. Inca is a pretty formidable civ to deal with. Their Huamakas are nasty OP to deal with. You know, their hand attack is phenomenal and they get a great siege, which can be boosted by cards. Even so, quite powerful. And Varingo has a habit of training more than one of these Chazquai, which you know them from Definitive Edition, right? They're basically like a scout unit that can gather treasures. They actually act as the primary hero unit of the Civ. You know, well, actually, they don't even have the hero tag, which I'm pretty surprised by, because they act a lot of ways like a hero. You know, they can construct town centers, they can construct trading posts, they can collect treasures. So they're generally pretty good at, they even have multipliers against treasure guardians, so I'm pretty surprised they don't even have the hero tag. And the other hero that the Incas get is the Sapa Inca. And basically what the Sapa Inca does is, it boosts all your nearby units' hit points. It has special abilities like to heal everything within an area and a mass heal. It itself can have the ability to dodge range attacks for a period of time. And it can also train more of the Chazquai here. So without the Sapa Inca under your control, you won't get more of these Chazquai. So yeah, it can be really good when you're going for a lot of treasure collecting up front. Right away we see Ethiopia going for aggro, using their shipment of pistoleros. If you're surprised of seeing Ethiopia with these outlaw units, they actually get a card called Degregados here that grants them about 6 pistoleros, and it gives them about, I believe, 35% additional stats, both in hit points and attack, making this a really nasty rating option, since they're literally dishing out 41 range attack per shot. When combined, that's enough to basically snipe vills one by one. And if you're not careful, that could be the end of your game, basically. So you have to be really careful about that. All the while, Japan's mostly focusing on shrine construction. Danish have to come up with a solution to this problem. So what are they going to do? They're going to get a tower up, a redoubt. They're going to ship some of the volunteers. This is Wars of Liberty's version of the crossbowman, basically. So like an earlier form of the skirmisher. And just like crossbowmen, you can only upgrade them to veteran, unless you have the Royal Guard option available, which some civs actually do. The French do, the Belgians do, and possibly others in the future, so definitely be on the lookout for that. We're going to have to see here if Rommel can hold the defensive line with his volunteers. Right now, I think the pistoleros are just searching for a good entry point to get off some free villagers, you know. The one balance thing that ends up hurting you with the pistoleros is they cost about 5 population, so it actually stunts your growth a little bit if you're not careful, and can actually force you to build either more apartments as Ethiopia, or research more blue technologies, since blue technologies also improve the amount of population that each individual apartment holds for the Civ. So, in a way, it ends up stunting you if you're not careful. Yeah, pretty much. So, Rommel's actually going to follow up with Grenadiers from his barracks. He's going to be looking to do, I guess, volunteer and Grenadier. A lot of anti-infantry, which is fair because we haven't seen any sort of hand cav enter the battlefield yet on any side. I'll have to just keep looking around to see if that's going to continue to be the case or not. So Mandalore's playing the Serbs. Yeah, Serbia's kind of an interesting one. Serbia gets quite a few options, but the thing that makes the Serbs really nasty is when you kill one of their units, the rest of the units will gain a temporary damage boost around that grave of that unit that lasts for a number of seconds. And it does stack a little bit too, so it definitely can get pretty intimidating if you're not careful. Looks like Rommel was able to intercept one of Varingo's pack llamas, which basically are used to construct trading posts. So one of them went up, the other one did not. And that's a pretty good blow for Varingo's map expansion in terms of getting more XP. Right now, Varingo is mostly doing his big army of Chazquai here without any real military units. In general, as long as they're being boosted up by these Sapa Inca, you can actually use these Chazquai a lot like a military unit to harass villagers and to kill some range units too. So definitely use those for like combat purposes when you can. They're going to be supported by the Swedish Beveringers here from Sagalai Black. The Beveringers are kind of an interesting hybrid unit. Their class is ranged heavy infantry, but they work more like a speedy pikeman. That's because they cost food and wood. They have a really good movement speed of 5, and then their multipliers against things like the scout class, the assault class, and the maneuver class, so like cavalry, is actually higher and closer to that of a pikeman, right? You know, pikemen have 5x against cavalry instead of the usual 3 of normal bayonet holders. But for the Beveringer, it's 4, so it's much more impactful. They're really great at wiping out mounted units. But they can also kite infantry, they can also raid villagers because of how fast they can run, so they're very versatile unit, which loses steam later in the game when you run out of wood options. So that's sort of the downside to them in a sense. We see a couple of recruits from the Serbs, and you see this little cross grave sticking out of the ground. That basically means that these recruits gain more damage. They actually can do about a total of 40 damage right now, which is actually pretty brutal. But it only lasts for a number of seconds. Eventually, as you see there, these graves do expire. And then the stats will return to normal once again. Serbia is a pretty controversial civ in Wars of Liberty. Some people think that they're too OP, some people think that they're kind of weak and they don't have a lot. You know, I think it's more the middle. I think there's some situations, especially when you get Iron Regiment for the recruits, they can become monsters, but in every other case, they're like your everyday nation-state or Balkan civ. So you definitely have to consider every situation when you're judging it, honestly. One of Eternity's Pistoleros was wiped out, and it seems like the Rommel team is converging together. We see Sasku and Shiguma Musketeers, which is the same as the Ashigaru, as well as Samurai. Pretty good melee unit. You got the Rommel doing Grenadiers and Volunteers, and then Serbs are doing Hajus, the Hajuks, and Hajduks, and the Grenadiers. Yeah. I remember Stefan mentioned the way you're supposed to say it in the Slavic dialect, but I kind of forgot, so I'm going to sort of take a comfort one on that one for now, until he comes back to go like, no, this is how you say it. This is how you say it like a true kebab remover in chief. Yeah. Pretty much. I'm just wondering how they're going to go about this attack here, because now they got some mule artillery. These mule artillery are very cheap Balkan artillery piece. They were actually trainable in age 2 instead of the usual age 3. And they only cost about 200 food and 100 wood, so they're actually considered a trash unit as well by Age of Empires 2 standards, making them a pretty nice anti-infantry and siege option alongside your infantry. They could even be used sometimes alongside cavalry if you do marauders. So it's kind of an interesting unit that doesn't function like most artillery do. It also makes the sounds of a donkey too, which is pretty rare. Looks like Eternity has reached Third Age and has some Ascari skirmishers here. The Ascari are pretty strong in the sense that they have more multipliers than most skirmishers do starting out. So they actually get about 2.5 against heavy infantry instead of the normal 2. For civs that get additional multipliers to them, like Zulu in Egypt, it's quite good because then they can do 3.5 against heavy infantry, as well as the Italians, who can actually train them with one of their cards and boost them up with anti-infantry rifling, basically. Counter-infantry rifling, so I think every civ except Ethiopia can really give them some pretty insane multipliers, for the most part. But Ethiopia makes up for it in other ways by just giving them more upgrades in the home city, for their general attack and hit points, as well as obviously the improvements from the red library text for the Ethiopians. Yeah, that's sort of the way Ethiopia and Africa works is they don't age up the normal way. They actually have to research all these technologies at the library building, and depending on how many they get of a certain color or combination thereof, then they actually get the age up eventually. We got an interesting melee right here, Samurai versus Hawamikas. Samurai had the advantage of splash here, whereas the Hawamikas are really fast thrusting spearmen. Right now it seems like Samurai holding their own against the Hawamika, which is very rare. We rarely see the Hawamikas get owned by anything, so Samurai is truly a unit in its own right to be able to beat the Hawamikas like this. The fact that there's still about, it's gonna be like 3 or 2 Samurai remaining after all this is quite impressive for that unit. Yeah, they're holding their own here, these Samurai. Absolutely brutal. Yeah, Sagawai Black has also gone up to the 3rd Age and has deployed some Hasatrupe assault units. These are essentially Swedish versions of the Cuirassier. They are technically a bit weaker, but they are also cheaper and they can be pretty massable. Yeah, and they're only 2 pop as well, which is a really nice asset for them. Now, one thing you can do eventually with one of the cards is you can actually give them a multiplier against heavy infantry as well, so they can become really strong tools of wiping out musketeers, pikemen, grenadiers, all those class of units. Looks like Serbia's going to be doing a Starfort into mountain artillery soon. Mountain artillery, even though they look like a heavy can, are actually a culverin and mortar unit, so they're good at sieging as well as wiping out enemy artillery. Ringo's going to keep up spamming Hawamikas because that's what you do with Inca. None of the other units usually matters as Inca. Just spam a bunch of Hawamikas and you usually just win doing that. Now, sometimes you might need the Inca Morphs because they're good anti-infantry and siege tool from long range, but 99% of the time, if you're really good with the Hawamikas, you can usually just win using that. Yeah, it's a brutal unit, but it is expensive. If you see it right here, I'll show you the cost of it. It's like 70 food and 50 coin, so it's really expensive in the coin. You know, so you definitely have to update your coin sources, or you at least need to keep a sufficient villager number. Since the Incas, unlike other civs, their villagers trickle coin as they work. So in effect, if you keep your villagers busy on trees and animals, they can actually get a good fair amount of coin to actually keep affording the Hawamikas. Now it's going to be interesting to see if the Starfort does go up, and if the Rommel team can actually defend it properly. what is Sask going to do? So Sask is doing Kie skirmishers, the Shiguma musketeers, as well as the Academico volunteers from the Portuguese. Yeah. Serbs are forced into a retreat because they're getting totally just demolished by the Oromo horsemen of Ethiopia. And it looks like Rommel's forces are not doing well either, because he's basically trying to fend off against assault units with his grenadiers. Not the best move that you could end up having to do. Yeah, Starford was denied. And Danish Fort was also denied. So this is looking like a very successful assault by the Ethiopia team here. Oromo's taking the front lines here. They're going to do a lot of damage against infantry. They deal about 3x against infantry. So really they're doing about almost 80 damage per hit against both skirmishers and musketeers. Very powerful. Skari, obviously a really good support unit for him, especially dealing with one of their counter classes, the maneuver class. We don't see any maneuver units from these guys yet, so... Actually, no, Rommel is starting to get a couple of dragoons going, which is great, because it's probably what you're going to need to wipe out this army. We see both the Sweden and the Ethiopian making assault cavalry. The difference between, say, hussars and assault cavalry, like the cuirassiers, basically, dragoons only deal multipliers against assault units at range. Whereas, in melee, the maneuver units like the dragoons can deal multipliers against both scout and assault, but only in melee. So they're really best when people make heavy forms of cavalry usually, or if you need to snipe somebody's artillery, which they still retain their multiplier against. Yeah, it looks like a tactical nuke situation for Inca, just running in and out as needed with their Huamakas, and looking for critical places to pick apart and snipe at. And that's sort of the thing you can do with the Incas and the Huamakas. You can come in and out, look for soft targets like a TC or a mill, and just braze it to the ground with their siege, even if you don't want to engage in direct combat. But what they're going to do is, they're actually going to start to begin burning some of those Japanese shrines down across the map, it looks like. Or at least the ones in that vicinity. And that's one way that you tackle Japan. You both cut down their population and you hurt their economy, since, even if they don't have any animals on them, they are trickling Japan resources. So it's really good to take out their shrines. Yeah, even these skirmishers, which normally are supposed to counter heavy infantry, do not counter the Huamakas at all once they get into that melee. Huamakas are just a really brutal unit to deal with. Once Ringo can get some upgrades on in the Third Age, when he gets there, they're going to be even better. What has he got so far? So yeah, he's picked up the hand hit points and the hand attack. He could get hand combat next. He could also pick up Violent Conquest. This actually increases their siege by 50%. Get him a really nasty siege unit. Serbia saving the day, though, with their infantry mass. I think in this case, Mandalore is going to want to get Iron Regiment, which he has gotten. Yeah, things might really change here now that he's got an Iron Regiment, because what that means is, on top of the normal grave boost that the Serbian infantry usually get, his recruits will also provide a secondary grave between them and other recruits only that increases both attack and hit points. So that becomes an even more daunting task to fight. And that's sort of the card that really knocks people out, is Iron Regiment. Because then you end up with recruits that could have 100 range attack or something like that. And it is for a number of seconds, but still it can change certain battles if you're not careful and you're not watching your stuff. Now, this is a unit you have to really be careful of, especially when you're doing stuff like Dragoons and the Cuirassiers on the Danish side. These Tigray Lances. These Tigray Lances have 2 hand attacks. This big one here is the one for the long spear that it's carrying, and a secondary one with hand-to-hand range with the sword. And basically what you try to do with these Tigrays is you try to use the long range attack with the big spear, But if units do get close, you can start to engage with them with the little sword, basically. And what happens is, basically, these Tigres wipe out really any mounted unit with these. And they can snipe things like artillery as well, because it is hack damage, so it's not like most artillery's armor is geared towards defending against that. So yeah, it can be a pretty interesting situation to deal with. Right now, Sagawai still has his massive grenadiers available, trying to support Ethiopia a bit. And Inca, in the meantime, is going for an assault down. Oh wow! Sask has denied Varingo his 2 Ushnus here. That means that once this army is wiped out, Varingo will have to send more reinforcements back from his base over here now. The Ushnu is basically Inca's military building, so it trains both their infantry as well as their artillery units. They do have access to one cavalry unit, the Manco Horseman, but it's not trainable. So the only way you actually get it is through both big bun techs at the TC as well as home city shipments. Yeah. At some point in the future, when Inca might get a formal community plaza or fire pit building, it's totally possible and probably likely they will actually be able to produce the Manco Horsemen through that, but it's not going to be for a very, very long time, probably. We see some Bolas warriors mixed in with the Huamacas. Unlike in Definitive Edition, these are still skirmish units, so they still counter heavy infantry and light cav instead of the mountain units. Unless that mountain unit is a dragoon. Yeah. Varingo's making great progress, getting ready to destroy the stable, as well as take out the Wonders. Torii Gates will deny Sask additional bounty. Taking out the Golem Pavilion will reduce the stats of his units. So what does Sask... So he's actually got his Golem Pavilion on melee mode, so increases the attack of your hand units. Right now, the Samurai do have about 49 hand attack. And that's pretty strong, actually. Quite powerful. I'm surprised he doesn't have the technology that makes the Samurai move faster while increasing their costs. He's also missing a card that's available, I think, in Age 3 that improves the stats of his Gensui generals as well as the Samurai. If he got that combat card in there, the Samurai would be doing definitely more than 50 damage. And those Huamacas might actually have a serious problem. Like, he seems to be teching pretty good into the Samurai. He's just missing some key upgrades there that could make a whole lot of difference for him. And he might even consider going to Japanese isolationism as well to give the Samurai even more stats in their fighting. Yeah, against the Huamacas, the Samurai just do really well. It's not even that many of them. Of course, the problem is with the Bolas warriors is they do deal splash damage when they throw their Bolas at the enemies. And they do snare as well, which slows down the Samurai even further from reaching them. It's going to make some more Academicos, it looks like, in Samurai. So right now it seems like he's just, what's that? So that's 5 Samurai shipments, so that's the last shipment of Samurai. Also, we gotta look up here too and see what's going on. So Ethiopia's moving from the north to actually raise down that Golem Pavilion and provide a bit of relief to Varingo, who's going to be dealing with some less stats against the Samurai once that thing comes down, which it looks like it's going to. I don't think that these Grenzers from Serbia is going to be able to intercept that, nor these Samurai. Well, yeah, because he still has some... The Beveringers will take it down, because the Beveringers also, like the pikemen, have a high siege, about 38 siege. So they're really instrumental in taking down buildings. And he's not moving his Grenzers in. A lack of reaction time cost the Golem Pavilion, perhaps. But, of course, there was infantry here, so I don't think it was too big of a deal. Just something to keep in mind. When you're trying to protect the friend's buildings, you do need to move a bit faster to give yourself and your ally the best chance of preserving that building. That can make a huge difference. You know, the Golem Pavilion is a really invaluable wonder for Japan because it just ensures that your stats on your military are just really good overall. And every way possible. Looks like Serbs are gonna try to do another defensive line here with their recruits and their Grenzers, with whatever remaining Japanese infantry are over here. More mule artillery coming in to back them up as well. It looks like Eternity's deciding where he's gonna put his factory wagon. Yeah, Ethiopia is the only civ in Africa right now that can actually access a factory in the industrial age. And yes, it can actually produce heavy cannon or steel guns, which they're called in Wars of Liberty, the steel guns. So yeah, on top of having two other forms of heavy artillery from their palace, Ethiopia can make steel guns as well. I think making them the most numerous heavy artillery civ in the game, I think. Because there's some civs that can get two types of heavy artillery, like say Germany, that can get the Farpanzers and the steel guns. There's ones like obviously any of the Asians that has a heavier cannon that can get the steel gun with the Consulate Allies, or the Hongyi Po cannon for Korea. So yeah, but Ethiopia, they can make three types of heavy artillery. You know, steel gun, the Sebastopol, and then the mound gun. So they got a pretty good variety when it comes to blowing up lots of infantry and buildings in one fell swoop. Get their run of the mill, depending on what resources they got. Yeah, Japan and Serbia getting cornered by Huamakas and the encroaching ranged infantry. Rommel's trying to back them up with foot artillery, which are the same thing as falconets, but he completely abandoned posts and let the cans get targeted by the Huams, possibly denying any potential defense at that position. Looks like Askari are winning the day in this area. And what's going on in terms of upgrades is so right now he's mostly focused on getting export duties, which helps the spice stalls. See, Africans can also get export, just like the Asians do, but instead of their villagers gathering it while they work, you actually gather it from spice stalls from the spice shop, which is this big, giant, Karnamatis-looking building that the Africans get. And when you gather from those spice stalls, you can do another number of things with the export. Number one, a lot of your technologies and age-ups, technologies that the library later on do cost a bit of export, so it is a mandatory resource to acquire. But it can also make foreign units of some kind. So in the case of Ethiopia, they can hire some export units from either Italy, India, Portuguese, or Russia. And that works with the other African civs as well. And they have their own slot of different civs from either Europe or elsewhere that they can hire in units from, giving them an even bigger variety of military that they can field in their conquest. Yeah, at this point, I think, yeah, it's looking over. Everybody's been resigned at this point, except for good old Rommel. Yeah, GG. GG, well played. You know, both sides had their moments, I think. Definitely Sask is very intimidating with this samurai, you know. I was Greeks one day, thinking I was going to take advantage of the assault honor guards against infantry. And then he sweeps in with the samurai, and then it's completely diminished, because the samurai are just a nasty heavy infantry unit, you know. Since they don't use the bayonet, their multipliers against the assault units are not reduced, so they go full throttle damage against them. It's actually a really dangerous threat, honestly. Yeah. Ethiopia always the star in terms of resources. In terms of the least resources, Sagalai Black with the Swedes is the lowest, which I think is pretty normal considering all these civs. Danish are not the biggest eco-civ either, so it's understandable. Here we see Askari being the biggest killer this game, but also Serbs being pretty big killers in their own right as well. In the case of Inca, though, Huamaka spamming's fairly easy, so you can get a lot of them out. And even if you don't get a lot of kills with them, you can get a lot of raises like this. 7 sieges. 7 sieges. Like, there's some sieges that even get A raises, like Serbs of the Danish here, but Warmicus though. Just under Ethiopia they got 8. So yeah, quite substantial. Yeah, like look at how well you can boom with Ethiopia because of their different booming techniques with their town centers and cards. Quite impactful. Like a big straight up graph. Whereas everyone's sort of down in this rectangle, Ethiopia does its own thing. Gets astronomically dangerous. Then if you want to look at like shipment numbers, again, Ethiopia really good in the shipment numbers, just outdoing the competition everywhere here. Definitely a good game for Juanita Boliviana for sure. Did a really good job here. Oh, it looks like Jeff has joined us. Jeff Argento has joined us. That's awesome. It's awesome to see for sure. It's always good to see additional Juanito Boleros coming to visit. It's really neat. Yeah, most definitely it is. Yeah, so now we're gonna have to pick a new game to do. I got 4 more recordings where I am now. When we do that, we can look at even more great stuff. Just want to check up on the live tab and make sure we're good with the connection and everything. Let me get into here and see if we're good. Yeah, it's just complaining about the bitrate a bit, which, you know, is fine. It's fine. Yeah. Doing good so far. Alright, so now we're going to go into record games. And the gameplay is looking good, right? I mean, I know in the past when we did the Liga games with Wars of Liberty, it always complained warning about the bitrate, but everything looked fine. So I'm going to assume, unless anybody complains about anything, that we're good right now. Yeah, I did reduce the bitrate a little bit before starting stream to make sure we didn't have too much stuttering. So always just let me know if anything looks incorrect, basically. Like it's stuck in place or, yeah. Alright, so now we're looking at a 2v2 here. We got Gran Colombia with Rommel, as well as Shakam Khan as the Dutch. And they will be fighting against, who is here, Alucard is the Bulgarians, and Hische is the Italians. Hische only does Italy and United States for the most part. He has done Lakota a couple times, so these are one of his favorite civs. For Alucard, he can just about play anything he wants. He's like one of the best Wars of Liberty players of all time. A total legend in his own right. Quite legendary. But before we see this duel commence, we do need to check the map out. So it looks like the map is actually Esau Klondike. And it's a pretty interesting map because it's sort of almost like the related map in Legacy, except for well, the non-Esoc one with the little, creek here with the little rocks sticking out of it. But yeah, in general, there's a lot of terrain that you have to cover on this map to reach your enemy, right? You start all the way down here, and you have to walk through all this snow and these Nuka native sites to actually reach your enemy. You also have the advantage of this cliffside over here on the edge that you can wall up and sort of use as a side attack. And if you do cross the Frozenish River over here that you can walk across, there is an awesome 5 trading post trade route for you to grab as well. So if you're willing to go out of your way a little bit, you might be very rewarded if you can capture this whole trade route, or at least a big portion of it. That being said, I think it's about time that we see the duel commence, and I think that's why everyone's here. They want to see some action, some fighting, and that's why I'm here too. I love good Wars of Liberty battle. Definitely. So, Bulgaria. A very interesting civ belonging to the Balkan and the nation-state culture. They work in a pretty weird way. in that weird way is they receive military units and upgrades one age later, which it is a bit of a negative thing, but at the same time, they got these weird cards called the Samara Banner cards, and you get these really cheap Opelschenet style units, so Opelschenet Infantry and Opelschenet Cavalry. And depending on what the unit is, it'll turn either your Opelschenet Infantry into something or your Opelschenet Cavalry into something. And it can snowball if you're smart, because you could literally turn a bunch of low-ranking, Opelschenet Infantry into fully fledged Grenzers. You could turn Opelschenet Cavalry into fully upgraded Honor Guards later on, once you get the Honor Guard techs. So there's it's all a matter of trying to get around the fact that you have lesser upgraded units until you get to Imperial Age, and basically trying to get ahead with surprise attacks, like surprises, Somebody thinks they're dealing with Opelschenets, so that's like an anti-infantry thing, so you might make Hussars, but then they turn them into Scythemen, and guess what? You're on the chopping block now, son, and you're dying. So it can become a real serious problem if you're not ready for it, for sure. We've seen Italy a lot in the last week, so not too much to talk about there. In general, these architects are your only builder unit. These merchants can gather resources, but they can't build anything. They just, they just have they don't have an engineering degree or an architecture degree. They just sort of, eat meat and stuff. Whereas the 200 IQ architect constructs these wagons, which can turn into, depending on what the wagon is, into a set of buildings, right? Town wagons can turn into houses, marble statues, docks, livestock pens. Agricultural can turn into a plantation or a mill. Military can turn into a racks, a stable, or a safe house. Engineering wagon can turn into a foundry or an arsenal. So it's really up to you which wagons you make. And technically it's the superior system of construction, because instead of taking villies that you use for gathering on the front lines and risk losing them, you just need an architect to be somewhere. He'll commission up a bunch of wagons, and those wagons can move around very quickly and safely on the map to become stuff. So it's pretty useful. We actually see a pretty interesting starting card for Alucard. He's gotten the dairy processing. This is a card that used to be a lot weaker earlier on, but with the more recent patches, they did buff it a bit. It gives you one hunting lodge wagon, which is a Balkan livestock pen. And on top of giving you an extra livestock pen from the wagon, what it does is it does enable both sheep and cows from those buildings. So normally you can only make geese, which don't have a lot of food, for a herdable, but with this, you can get sheep and cows. So think of HVNI and all those games where it's making all those sheep as the British and stuff. Like this would give HVNI goosebumps, being able to make geese, cows, and sheep from his hunting lodge livestock pens, and for a reduced cost on the sheep and the cows too. So you don't even have to put as much initial food into getting them going either. It's something I experimented on very early, but I found it a bit daunting at first to really decide how many cows I really want to make versus what I can do in terms of hunting on the map. So, mostly I just enjoy hunting, but once I really want to get into learning livestock a lot better, maybe I'll invest more into that dairy processing card so I can get some nice cheap sheep and cows to construct stuff with. Yeah, sounds like a great idea. It's actually aging up with the livestock pen politician, Sophronius of Vatstrala, or something. I don't know Bulgarian. Got to inform me on that one. Now on to the opponents. We got the Dutch here. Dutch are a pretty interesting opponent for sure. Basically, they are a very different Civ than they are in the Legacy game. In the Legacy game, as you know, the Dutch are known for their banks. right? Constructing banks to trickle coin. But the way the Dutch work here is a bit different. So instead of being well known for banks, which they don't have anymore, they have 3 different types of villagers. You got the settlers. As you see in the description, they actually get a 10% boost from berries, as well as farming from the mills, but not hunting. You get another villager here, which you see right here, the Javanese labor. It costs wood instead of food, and it does 10% better at wood chopping. And then you have the last unit here, the slave, which again, it costs coin, but it's 10% better at mining and at plantation gathering. So, a very different way to play the Dutch Civ. And also in Wars of Liberty, their roster was significantly changed as well. They don't have riders anymore, they don't have the early skirmisher mechanic anymore, they don't have halberdiers anymore, or pikemen. They essentially get these sort of hybrid musketeer units, the flankers. They get a improved movement speed, so they're really fast, which actually can be boosted by this card, the Schusterlige Mobile. And they essentially get a speed of I believe it's 5 or 5.5 or something. They get really fast, and they can really kite and maneuver very well. And they're sort of a hybrid because they have the bayonet mechanic of regular muskets, but at range, they get multipliers against light cav. So, kind of like a combo between a crossbowman and a musketeer all in one. Like we see in the Beveringers of the Swedes today, a combo of the pike and the musket. The flanker is a combo of the crossbowman and the musket. And on top of that, the Dutch also get 3 ultimate units. One costing each resource. So they got a Dutch one costing food, which, by the way, if you haven't noticed yet, the Dutch Civ is sort of like a Trinity Civ between, Europe, Indonesia, and Africa. So their food costing, one is like a cavalry unit. They get a Machitero that costs wood, the Marchazi, and then they got a really beefy musketeer from Africa called the Zwart Hollander, which you might already be used to in this mod since it's been around for a while. Just it's more of a World Decree unit before, and now it's a fully fledged trainable unit, essentially. Yeah, quite a lot of stuff with this Civ, for sure. The thing I find kind of interesting here is technically both Rommel and Shakam Khan, with the Civs they got, have a huge number of ultimate units that they can select from. Because on top of Dutch having 3 ultimate units, Colombia can also gain about up to 4 ultimate units, depending on how they choose to do their age-ups. Yeah, essentially, you can either choose to add Grand Colombia member states to your Civ with your age-ups, or you can choose immigrants. If you just do Grand Colombia states, you can end up with 4 ultimate units, one from Ecuador, one from Colombia proper, one from Venezuela, and one from Panama. So a total of 7 ultimate units between the Dutch and the Colombia Civs, leading to really unique gameplay. Very unique gameplay. Yeah. And question to Rommel. Why has he built a tent at all? He could totally start putting a tent barracks down somewhere over here. Because one of the features of the Colombia Civ is they get access to tent buildings. So either a tent barracks, a tent stable, or a tent... Well, not a tent. Yeah, a tent. So yeah. And basically how tent buildings work is you can build them really anywhere on the map except within the mortars area of your own town center. And what they do basically is they're cheaper but weaker versions of their more expensive counterparts. And they can be trained by your infantry. So they can be made by your conscriptos, your macheteros. They can be made actually by cavalry like the llaneros and unets as well. So Columbia's great at attacking forward, like plopping down a tent or two and really massing out a bunch of conscripts like this. That's really where they strive really well in. I'm a little bit worried for Hishe here if he'll be able to defend, because we see a really nice maneuver by Rommel and Shakam. Shakam's doing grenadiers and flankers, and Rommel's adding in conscripts, so very heavy on the heavy infantry, and a bit of anti-infantry in the form of the grenadiers. That's a lot of bullets that are going to be flying here. It's going to be really hard for even Alucard to completely push them back just doing a number of Opalshenets like this. That makes me think, what does Alucard have in mind to help his ally out? Right now, what he's going to do, I think, is he's going to try to kite as best as he can with the Opalshenets, as much as possible. Oh, he actually lost his Architect, which is not that great. And I think the conscripts will be able to take out this before it's constructed as well. Because all Alucard can really do at this point is hold out as long as he can, keep training the Opalshenets. Yeah. Opalshenets are kind of a weird unit. Similar to the Flank War, they actually count as both heavy infantry and as a skirmisher. So they suffer both from things like the Sawar, and they suffer from skirmishers. So they're pretty vulnerable in that sense. But unlike the Flank War, which has a lot of multipliers, the Opalshenet is just like a trashy unit with no multipliers. You know, it's got about 14 range, so it does range a musketeer. But, you know, not the most damage. It's kind of like a Garbo unit, basically, that you're supposed to turn into other things, right? I mentioned those Samara Bear cards. You could turn them into Grenzers, you could turn them into Decipherment, or potentially something else, depending on what cards are in the home city. It's really up to you. Right now, though, because Alucard was good with his micro and spacing out his units, he was able to beat the Dutch army. And he should be able to beat this Colombian army as well. Yeah. He's going to try to fish them in, but we'll see if Rommel takes the bait or he retreats. Yeah, it looks like Rommel's trying not to fall too much into the bait trap that Alucard has sent for him with his slightly more ranged units. Rommel's going to try to intercept it with Mosqueteros. Buenitos Mosqueteros. These guys are actually considered a form of splash cavalry, so a heavy cavalry like the assault. And what they do is they use their machetes to deal about one splash. And they're just really good against particular heavy infantry because they have about 40% hack armor, making them be able to survive quite a few swipes of the bayonet or sword or pike. You know, pretty strong in that regard. But unfortunately for Rommel, while he was busy dealing with Alucard, Hishe was able to return with some more line infantry. Line infantry just being musketeers, right? We're in the 19th, 20th century, so you can't have musketeers anymore. You get line infantry instead as Europe. And basically, a whole lot of European cities, as you know, can make line infantry, right? So Russians, French, Portuguese, Spanish, really a lot, you know. Pretty numerous unit. Yeah, it looks like they are taking a bit of damage there. Yeah. Look at these Mosqueteros. Ooh, that is a good strike by Rommel. He caught the Alucard villagers off guard. It's not every day that you can strike a blow against Alucard. That's pretty good. Now, he didn't get all the peasants, but he got a good number of them, and he's just going to force Hishe and Alucard to take a defensive stand to protect that hunt area, which does open the possibility for raiding over here and stuff, pressure. Yeah. Quite a lot of building construction by Shakam, but does he have enough resources to produce that much stuff is the question. Right, he's got 2 stables, 2 barracks, but can he basically keep these working all the time? You know, normally why we build more buildings is we want to be able to produce more stuff quicker, right? Also, does he have the housing space to justify all that too? Because that's going to be another thing. He's going to have to make sure that this Abungusti, Japanese labor, basically does some construction. Artisanal cans. Picking up the rum distillery. I don't know about that. You really should never research a card like this until you're ready to use that building. Because, yeah, it's a pretty good card for gathering, but you're not in the age to actually make the plantations yet, so it's kind of a waste, You really should be getting the 600 wood. Maybe get some more towers, maybe even get team infantry hit points, because that benefits both you and Rommel. Card choices like that can make or break games, so you really need to make sure you're always sending the best card forward in your deck for the moment. Also, attacking line infantry with hussars. Not the best play I've seen. Especially when you notice he's going into melee mode. Ouch. That's a lot of lost resources, man. You could have made a bunch of flankers or grenadiers or something. That's just really awful. Awful waste of stuff. Yeah. Awful waste of stuff. Yeah. And these are the opposite cavalry Bulgaria can make. They're a lot like the opposite infantry. They're like a subpar version of the hussar. And yes, they can be turned into different things. Right? They can be, in particular, they can be turned into the honor guard. Right? I don't think there's any cards that can turn into the maneuver unit, the carbineer. So really, there's only cards later on that'll let you turn into honor guards. So the assault unit, which Bulgaria has really good honor guards, because their honor guards can be upgraded further into the Spacitels, which very powerful, pretty powerful unit, quite powerful actually. Not looking good right now for Shotgun and Rommel. The base seems to be falling apart quite a bit here. Just losing their steam right now. Just losing a lot of steam. Grenadiers being used in the wrong place. Gonna get chased down by the opposite cavalry, which should be able to deal with them. I think. Yeah, probably. The opposite cavalry certainly are a bit weaker, but they are being supported by Marines infantry that's allied to them. Good maneuver by Hishe and Alucard, taking over that forward base. A couple of defending hussars and conscriptos, not going to do anything here. Yeah, I mean, the hussars are even suffering by their own infrastructure. They're not even able to reach their targets after they run around those stables, run around the Rosie. It's just not working. It's not working well for them at all. Yeah, that base is totally gone. What's the resource count between Shotgun? Shotgun has some resources, but not enough to make a substantial defense. Rommel has a bit more resources in the coin in particulars, but he has no units up here, so it's not like he can put a defensive line with tents anywhere. But what he did do is, he did get the Presidential Palace. Ultimate building here, the Presidential Palace. And what the Presidential Palace does is, it lets you produce your ultimate units. So it lets you make the Granadero to Tarqui. It does let you make the Rompileña, the Canal Police, or the Indepenista. Good variety of units. Yeah. The thing that's particularly good about the Granadero de Tarqui is it's both a assault cavalry with the lance, so it's just really good for wiping out infantry, but it also can essentially throw grenades as a charge attack. Yeah, so they can throw a bomb that can wipe out a lot of infantry on its own, and then their lance attack just adds to that, making them a pretty formidable unit. And funnily enough, since they are considered a Colombian unit, they can also construct tents as well. So they can completely ravage an area of the map, and then they can start to lay down tent barracks and stables to train some of their more regular units. Unfortunately though, not a lot of Tarquis here to deal with this. The bomb throw did help a little bit, and they did actually wipe out one of the mountain units with it. So it looks like Rommel's going to need just a few more units here to really gain an edge, taking out one of the trailing Opelschennets there. He's going to want to make sure though to retreat when he's fallen into a trap. It's a trap. Don't fall into the trap. They're luring you in, man. They're luring you in. Don't fall for it. Back up with Shakam Khan, who's also going up in age. He's going to get some yeah, he could get some stronger grenadier shipments going and get those up to veteran maybe. Could train some skirmishers as well, which Dutch can still make. Just not early anymore. They have to wait, sadly, till age 3 to start training their skirmishers. But that's what everybody does, so it's not really a disadvantage. They just lost their advantage. But we'll see though what Shakam Khan does, because it can really show us what level of defense those two can make. At the same time though, we see really good economy from Hishe and Alucard here. How many vills does Hishe have? So he's got about 50. He's going to have about 50. And then he's actually has an industrial age coming in on the way. That means he's going to be able to get these line infantry up to guard line infantry, which is really powerful here. These line infantry are going to outstat both opponents very easily. And they might have to they're definitely going to have to watch out for that. Sure. And what's Alucard doing at this point? Is Alucard just going to play early game? No, he's starting to get Georgy Benkovsky, which does grant him a covered wagon, so he's going to be able to get another town center now. They can basically put anywhere he wants. And yeah, I think he's just going to play this out offensively with his ally, depending on how much he wants to push here. Yeah, he's got all the upgrade cards. He's got all the upgrades for the Opelschennet infantry, which is pretty powerful. He just has to get Opelschennet combat at age 4. But other than that, these Opelschennet infantry are basically at almost full speed in terms of damage at this point, which is pretty nice. He also got the Levski's Legion card, which lets you train units in blocks of 10. A lot like that Japanese consulate technology. So that means essentially that Alucard's going to get some pretty quick armies out with that ability. As you can see here, the Opelschennets are gaining quite a bit of speed with all those techs being researched. It's going to get the veteran upgrade on him now, as well as the sailor combat, the Danubian combat, which buffs up both sailors as well as these Opelschennet infantry. So now coming in with a little bit more damage than a regular musketeer, about 28 damage, so looking pretty good there. And here's the thing, since they have the skirmish tag, that means flintlock holsters will give the Opelschennet infantry a range of 16. So about equating that of an actual crossbowman. which should make them much better kiting tools in this upcoming battle. Doing an assault over here, looks like with veteran-inspired Conscriptos and some artisanal cannons. But what about the Granada Tarkis? Got a bomb throw in there, and it looks like the lances of the Tarkis will be put to the test. Just not enough numbers though. You know, good unit, but it needs to be used more supportingly, I think. The Rompiña, on the other hand, does have a lot more multipliers against heavy infantry, so maybe he should have went more with Venezuela than Ecuador as one of the age-ups. Because the Rompiña has about 5x against heavy infantry, so as much as a pikeman is against cav. And that might have been a pretty brutal thing for those line infantry to deal with. But at the same time, you are outclassed because history was able to acquire the resources for industrial age in there, hence guard line infantry now. Alucard is also going to pursue industrial age too with Ivan Bazov. Yeah. One rule I should have mentioned with Bulgaria is, while they do get their upgrades one age later, there is one exception. You do get the Opolshenet unit upgrades on time, so you don't have to wait till Imperial Age to get all the upgrades for the Opolshen units. It's just the case for their non-Opolshen units, so their honor guards, their Grenzers, their Carboniers, and their artillery. You do have to wait an extra age to get all the upgrades for those, but for your Opolshenets, you can get Veteran in Age 3, you get Guard in Age 4, and Imperial in Age 5, so you do get something going right for you, too. Another interesting side note about the Opolshenet, in addition to the Samara banner cards, once you reach the Great War Age, there is a technology, in fact, that will let you turn your Opolshenet units into an elite Imperial Age version of infantry. I think it'll turn your Opolshenet infantry into Sajka's Serbian sailors, and then it'll turn your Opolshenet cavalry into Chorophylaxi unit, Chorophylaxi Legion infantry from the Greeks, so an elite musketeer with more range. And it's a one-use ability, but it's quite powerful because it essentially turns your sort of trash units into really tough Serbian and Greek units that you can use to do an initial push in the World War I age, or the Great War Age. Starting to pick up the veteran upgrade on the Opolshenet cavalry now. Pretty interesting approach by Alucard, doing a mostly low-tech approach in terms of combat. Sort of just relying on home city upgrades to get his Opolshenet cav and his Opolshenet infantry up to par in terms of stats. Doing well both against the Dutch infantry as well as the things that Rommel's been making on the Colombian side. Looks like that's a GG, a defeat for Shakam and Rommel. Take a look at the post game and see how that one turned out. Alucard, the MVP of resource count, even more than his ally who hit Industrial Age first. Very impressive. Double the score of their opponents in terms of resources. In terms of killing power, Bulgaria, with its underwhelming stats, had the MVP of damage. That just shows you how good of a micro-war that Alucard is. Quite impressive. Very impressive, actually. Very strong in what he does. Hishay, kind of on par with Rommel. Dutch doing the least amount of damage. Yeah, that was some pretty good fighting there, I think. You know, everybody was going back and forth a bit until Alucard became Alucard and completely ravaged everything. Yeah. You can see a difference, though, right around this mark here. This is sort of when both of these started to really ramp up the villager production. whereas Rommel and Dutch sort of stagnated for a while, and then they sort of dipped around here. In terms of shipping access, obviously I think it was clear that Hishe was going to begin a lot of XP here for shipments because he was taking a lot of the early abuse, and thus he was doing a lot of combat, and thus was able to get a lot of kill bounty here. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense why Hishe was able to keep up with that level of performance on the combat side. Gonna be booting up into the third game we got. Just gotta wait for it to boot up. There we go. Loading up again. So what do we got now? What delectable piece do we have now? You see here. So I got another Bulgaria game, which I did with a different number. So this one would be Bulg 1-1. So this is another one. Alright, so we got Rommel this time teamed with Alucard. And we got Shopping.com teamed with Hishe. So a bit of a different team dynamic here. Alucard is doing his Bulgaria once again. Rommel is doing his Bolivia. A very special civ for the Juanitos Bonitos. On the opposing side, we have Shotgun Khan doing the Russians, and then we have Hishe playing Italy again, because he loves Italy. Yeah, but I guess before we get into any real combat, we should check out the map real quick and go over it. So this would be Esoc, Alaska, I believe. It does appear in the Definitive Edition as well, if I'm not mistaken. It's quite a diverse map. You know, you got the coastline here that's great for fishing and whaling. And as you move inland, there's lots of hunts, there's berries and different resources. And then at the end, you got these nice snowy cliffs here that are very cold and frigid. So quite a lot of movement potential on this map. In general, this wide open area that isn't on the water and not near the snow cliffs here is totally pretty open, so you can hit your enemy directly head on if you want to, without too many choke points. There's also Nuka natives on it as well, but unfortunately no trading posts, you know. Unfortunately no trade along this very frigid Bering Strait here that would probably be on this side of Alaska. If I recall what the nose looks like in Alaska. Now we'll continue with combat, now that we've gone over the map, and we sort of expect how they're going to use this map. This should be a pretty interesting one. I wonder if anyone's actually going to take the water here. You know, you can play this map totally on the land, but you do have the water option. You can establish a dock on this beach over here and start moving away at these salmon, and then move towards some of the whales. It's always a good option you can utilize. So, looks like Bulgaria's going to be doing their dairy processing build once again, using that extra hunting lodge wagon to basically get that livestock pen down and perhaps boom up pretty quickly with lots of cows and sheep at a reduced price. And then we'll mostly use Levski's Legion to mass up a bunch of Opal-Shened units without really needing anything more powerful, unless it comes to that issue. One thing I find really cool that Alucard managed to do is, just to prove his muscle and might as a player, he actually made a deck, a treaty style deck with no crates, no units, nothing. It's a statement to him and the rest of these Juanitos Warlords that Alucard is the best. I don't need crates, I don't need villager cards, I can keep up with you even without any boosters. You know, I can just focus on late game, and the longer I'm in the game, the more brutal I will become. More of that ultimate boss style thing, basically. So looks like for Russia on the Shotgun Khan side, he's playing pretty standard Russian deck. He has an admiration for rum distillery. I don't see any Royal Mint and I don't see any Fridge, but he's got rum distillery. Why is that? Well, it seems like he's got Frontier defenses in Age 3, he's got lots of unit shipments here, so kind of interesting, you know. Number of unit shipments is certainly good if you can keep that kill and build bounty up, I think. Covered Wagon could help a bit with eco. Sure, has the forts. But doesn't have national redoubt, so it's unfortunately cannot reconstruct forts with these line infantry, though. So that's kind of an unfortunate situation here. Italy's most likely going to do the same thing. Somehow, for some unknown reason, has the mercenary loyalty card here. So yeah, pretty strange. No mercenary shipments, but mercenary loyalty. Is that like a meme? What is that? Whereas Rommel, what is Rommel going to do? So Rommel has some options. Rommel could go War the Republicatas with this card here. The War of the Republicatas basically allows every trading post you have to produce a group of 3 Republicata Maquettes, which are essentially like a musketeer with a range multiplier against cavalry. It's a native warrior, so it doesn't cost any pop. And in general, for those that don't know, Bolivia is a mostly native warrior-centric civ. So they get native combat, they get access to Tokoyo industries, so yeah, look at this, 40% additional HP for native warriors. And this one, another 25% to both hit points and attack to native warriors. So if you really like native warriors on maps, especially the Nuka Clubman on this map, which can be pretty big game changers, you're gonna like Bolivia and what they can do for you. You know, Bolivia's kind of one of those interesting civs. You know. Also, if you notice here, we'll look at their villagers. Villagers actually have less HP than standard villies do. Essentially. And they don't have hand armor either, so they just get pretty raided by hussars very easily. The reason for that is your Juanita Bonita here, Monica Galindo, can basically use this special circle ability over your villagers to turn them into the Kayurunas, which is another native warrior that your civ can make, which is like a native warrior musketeer that costs about food and wood. Yeah. We already see Rommel going for trading posts, research the hit point related upgrade for villagers from the Nuka. And I think once Rommel gets all these native sites going, he's probably going to get War of the Republicatas and do a rush of both Nuka Clubman with the supporting Republicata Maquettes behind them. Yeah, I remember back during one of the House of the Trading Post games that I was doing with Nicaeus, we did see the Nuka Clubman be really abused on this map in Definitive Edition. So I definitely think Rommel might be able to pull the same trick off here on Wars of Liberty if he's very smart about it. This card here, the Native Militia, makes the Native Warriors 20% cheaper. So those Nukas will be even cheaper to train. So I think he's going to get this, and he's probably going to get these 2 combat cards in Age 3. And Rommel will have a pretty good attack structure going with this stuff. And he could also support him with these nice, nifty, infinite shipments. One for the Francotiradores, which is a mounted crossbowman. So more slight multipliers against heavy infant dragoons. Or he could support him with the Macheteros, which is a speedy, dismounted splash cavalry, essentially. So like a heavier form of the Coyote Runner. I think if you combine one of these things with the Maquettes and the Nuka Clubman, that should be a formidable combination for Rommel to do alongside Alucard's Opalshenna gameplay. That being said, what is the opponent's going to do? So it looks like Shaka Khan is going to do Cantonus. We're all very upset that Unstoppable Steletsy is no longer in the Russian roster in this game, but you get Unstoppable Cantonus instead, and he's got a really nice purple scarf. So yeah, there's that. Now, alongside the Cantonus, I think Hisei will probably just do more line infantry like he did last game, and maybe try to get a quicker age up than his opponents, and try to essentially get some earlier upgrades on, like veteran or guard upgrades, to keep those going. Yeah, he's doing double racks line infantry. That'll provide a really good buffer against shock units, I think. But I think the key here is going to be making sure that Hisei protects the Cantonus of the Russians, because the Cantonus are going to be an essential tool for suppressing both the Bulgarians and the Bolivians, because they're going to be doing mostly things with the heavy infantry tag. So if you can keep the Cantonus around, should be able to have an easy time wiping out essentially everything that they make, I think, except for like Opalshenna Cavalry and Musketeers and stuff. Kind of interesting. Yeah. Looks like they're already making an assault on the native sites of Rommel. Hisei probably wants to get a start on this now before Rommel really masses up a large number of the Nuka clubmen. Thankfully, he has enough line infantry to be able to one-shot down those Nukas with enough bullets, and can now start to fight back against the Keirunas. In addition to being able to turn your villagers into them, you can train them from native embassies as well throughout the game. So even if you don't have a native site, building a native embassy means you can train this very special native musketeer of the Bolivian Civ. So we see Cantonus make a move on the heavy infantry of Rommel, but Rommel's trying to sandwich in a bit with the Francatiradores. As you can see here, the Francatiradores they have more HP than the Cantonus, because they're less trashy in that sense. But note how their hit points are pretty low for a mountain unit. This is because they're actually only a 1-pop mountain unit. Yeah, they're 1 pop. And they have the same resource cost as a crossbowman. So you actually can stack up lots of Francatiradores in tandem together and go for really big pushes with them. Something pretty powerful you can do. Kind of has to keep this Opalshenna Cavalry out of the fray for now, because you're dealing with a lot of bayonets here from the Italians. Most certainly. What's Shockham doing? So Shockham is actually going for a age 3 now, while training up some pikemen. In Wars of Liberty, pikemen are called partisans, but they're the same unit, you know. Same stats as the pikemen in Legacy. Fortunately for the Russians, they can get Royal Guard pikemen, the Opalshenets. Yeah. Kind of confusing, because Bulgaria gets their own Opalshenets, Russia gets their own Opalshenets, everyone gets Opalshenets. The Russian Opalshenets are just a Royal Guard pikemen, whereas for Bulgaria, Opalshenet can either mean the infantry, which is like a musketeer and skirmisher hybrid, ish, and then the mounted one is just like a weaker hussar. Have some Cossacks from the age up as well. Rommel was able to defend the line and keep both his native post and his native embassy standing. Quite good. Gonna try to scare off those Opposite Cav a bit with that big grouping of line infantry from Italy. See if he can retreat him back to the... Oh, instead, he lured him right towards the villagers, right towards the merchants. Which is gonna give Bulgaria a opportunity to construct a tower house at this position. Unfortunately, not enough time to construct it, so it likely will be intercepted by these line infantry, which will see the foundation of it. Yeah, so fighting that off means for the time being at least, Italy will be able to retain both that elk and that moose hunt over here. Just trying to see here what sort of move Rommel's going to make in comparison to Shock'em. Rommel's going right for the villagers, whereas Shock'em is going in this direction, unaware of what's going on. Gave Rommel the perfect opportunity to position his troops for maximum casualties. That's going to force Shock'em. Is he going to return, or is he going to just push? I mean, here you probably should just defend, I think. You got enough unit shipments to basically go for a stronger push later, so maybe in the end, Shock'em should probably just try to defend this out. Yeah, he is. He's going to try and meet that army somewhere and, you know, bonk them as much as possible. Starting to get another shipment of the Cantonists now. Eventually could try to get a veteran upgrade onto one of these units too. Some trailing Francotiradors used as a distraction so the rest of the army can escape. That's a big contingent of Opposite cavalry there, enough to actually dominate against the line infantry. Looks like the merchants are now on the retreat. And that tower house is going to be, another tower house is going to be there to stay. Russia closing in on the Bolivian army. They can, for the meantime, probably make a move on that trading post, which is going to cut down the number of Nuka clubmen that Rommel will actually be able to make, since he'll be missing one of those native sites. Italy's just going to fall back and do agriculture with the agriculture wagons and make some mills. Yeah, this is good maneuverability, I think, by Shock'em, because Rommel's trying to take advantage of the fact that he's sieging to try to take some strikes in with his Mosquiteros. But Shock'em didn't fall for it too much. He was able to retarget and make sure that those Mosquiteros were dealt with. TP is going to be going down here. Alucard looking for some raiding opportunities, I see, with his Opposite cavalry. It's kind of hard to say who's the winning team at this point. I think if Hishe can defend his farms... Oh, he's actually going to go for a hunt, which... I think it's good that he's going for the hunt because he is going to be able to intercept this raid. Because he's been able to shoot at them a little bit, knock off some of their numbers. He is going to be able to defend that. Yeah, he's just going to go this way so he doesn't even engage with them. Then he should be able to go back and grab those moose. Also using the architect to construct walls. It's the one building that the architect actually constructs directly with a hammer instead of making wagon for. Imagine having to make wall wagons to build pieces of walls. That would be the most cancerous experience, I think, in the world. Imagine having to make one piece of a wall at a time with a different wagon. Yeah, they'd have to be pretty cheap wagons, too. So, yeah. Good thing that the architects are hardworking enough to actually take a hammer and start building that themselves. How many? 13 line infantry from Russia. Should be able to get these up to veteran soon. Get some stats on them. Keeping up with the vills, I like it. Keeping up with vill production, that's always important. Yeah, see, this is what Alucard's doing. He's doing a mostly HVNI style livestock strategy. He's got cows over here, geese over here. Infinite food that will keep your villages full, basically. Lots of hamburgers and steaks, and then whatever French Napoleonic weird goose liver dish that you're making over here. So yeah, variety of food for everyone. And certainly enough food to keep up Opalshan production. Now, I don't think you should be engaging now by yourself, Shockham. You should be defending. Giving Hishay enough time to get to the third age. Oh, this could be bad. This is very bad, though. This is bad. Because what happened is these outlaws are actually going to aid the army of Shakam Khan, and they're actually going to provide range support and force them into a nasty situation. Yeah. That was very fortunate for Shakam that these two decide, hey, I'm going to attack some treasure guardians here. Because now this treasure guardian's going to actually casually... They actually took out a good number of their troops, which is going to make whatever fight Shakam does just a little bit more effective, I would say. Now, Hishay is going to provide a couple of troops as well here. Certainly good for them that none of their opponents have actually reached the third age themselves. Hishay reaching the third age himself right now, but Bulgaria is also going to be reaching the third age. With the same politician as last time, granting him a covered wagon. We'll take out the war chief there, or just the chief. Essentially what the chief does for like the nation state of Balkan civs like Bulgaria, he leaves behind this national statue when he dies. And what it does is, it boosts the attack speed of nearby soldiers until the statue decays within a number of seconds. But if your opponents get to and you don't have any troops there, they can actually siege down this statue and gain an additional 20 XP as an even stronger XP bounty from just killing the hero itself. So, if you're not careful, you can end up granting your enemy more XP than you normally would. But if you got an army there, then the national statue becomes a great asset to boost up the attack speed of your own soldiers, that they might actually win the battle. What's Rommel doing? Is Rommel aging up? No, he's going fish economy, so Rommel's pretty smart to be working on the fish of the Pescado here, all the salmon on the coastline. Nobody else is going fish here, so this means if Rommel, he's going double dock to do it, he's going to have all this fish and whales to himself, which means he's going to be able to expand his economic portfolio on the map really well. Quite well, actually. Quite well, actually. Even picking up the crab hunting on the water as well, so that's going to make that eco even better. Does he have his crates of coin? Nah, he's used up his coin, so he's gonna have to mine a little bit to actually get to age 3. Hishay picking up the counter cavalry combat, which is gonna add some more stats onto the line infantry. Shotgun, what's Shotgun doing? Shotgun's just walling up a bit. It's gonna take advantage. Oh, he's gonna wall this area off, so he has some more moose and some gold mining to do over there. Bad idea. The Alaska Gold Rush, as they say. Veteran Cossack, so he is upgrading a bit as well, which is good. This is a pretty deep town center though, so it does show that Alucard is making some inroads, map control wise. It's gonna try to deny any walling over... like the Explorers here though. The Explorers should be able to wipe out one of those Opalshank cabs by himself. But he's going to be knocked out by the other one, though. Fortunately. Oh, the other one's pretty weakened, too. So maybe if they do end up coming across that villager down there, maybe the villager himself should be able to handle this unit all on his own. But it will tip off Alucard to send some more, though, to stop the wall, though. I think it's all going to come down to how well Hishay can do in terms of age-up times. And if he can get his line infantry up to the guard level. Veteran Cantonist, so upgrading the skirmies. Does he have veteran upgrades on the line? No, not yet. Doing falconets or foot artillery with line infantry. Probably the better way to go, honestly, because you just don't know what Alucard and Rommel's plan is for attack at this point, so having a bit of anti-infantry in there to just blast them down, probably the best way to go here. And also the fact that you got still enough coin to just keep training more of those line infantry. Picking up the rum distillery himself. Has a really good plethora of eco technologies, so the later in the game Hishay is, he's going to be able to meet Alucard's eco boom tit for tat. That being said, though, Alucard is in Industrial Age. He is picking up the Yatagan swords, which does give more... It allows essentially scout units like the Opalshank Cavalry to have a quicker attack speed. Swings the sword a little bit quicker. Being stopped by the wall, the Great Wall of Pizza, instead of China, the Great Wall of Italian pizza, or pasta, spaghetti. Basically big slabs of lasagna sheets. Or Sicilian pizza, that's a square as well. Picking up the guard upgrade on the Opalshank Cavalries, patriotic, as patriotic as you can get with 50 hand damage and 516 HP. Look at all this food, though. Look at all these hamburgers and steaks and beef sausages Alucard is pumping out here. Beef ribs. He's having a really delectable dinner over there. And for the French folk he's with, he's got the goose liver. Got everything, and he's going to get some wheat to make some bread with the wheat crops. Well, the thing about crop upgrades for the Balkans is it benefits both the food farms and the coin farms. For food, Balkans gather wheat. For coin, they gather strawberries. Yeah. Got a real sweet tooth. Strawberries, geese, wheat, and cow. Kind of a weird diet. Have an interesting diet. Oh, he's building a Sociedad Folklorica. Sociedad Folklorica. Basically what this does is it essentially doubles your native build limit. It's like really bonkers. Like, notice here what the build limit of these nukas is now. It's just, well, I have to switch to them to see it, but, 40 build limit, and then I believe it goes up, or did he already train everything for that? I don't know, it's supposed to go up at some point when you build this. Kind of weird. I thought it was a little bit higher than that, but that's still pretty good. How about for the Kaerunas? Yeah, it hasn't quite boosted up just yet, though. Should at some point. Yeah. It's alright. It's alright. Oh, Basiglianes. Yeah. These are from Definitive Edition. But unlike DE where they're skirmishers, here they are super speedy dragoons. But they don't have multipliers against artillery, unfortunately, so don't try to fight falconets or culverins with them. They're just not going to work. But they will be great against this, if they go into melee, of course. But even at range, you know, they can chase stuff down. Oh, this is a nice shot by Hishe here. Good defensive line with his foot artillery. Then he's going to be able to get the field gun upgrade on him pretty soon. He already has the guard line infantry, so Hishe's looking quite good right now, honestly. Cossacks giving the Opalshine Cav some chase so the Italian villagers can get back onto the plantations. Jarring those jars of pasta sauce to send to America. Pizza sauce. I have a feeling that this is going to be another win for the Hishe team. I think, yeah, they should be able to eliminate these here. One advantage, though, of having like a mounted skirmish, they are a little bit more immune to mount. Actually, no. Wait a second. The foot artillery does 100 damage, and the unupgraded Francotirador has 100 HP, so it doesn't still instantly die to these cannons. Oh, that's horrible, though. Look at how devastating that raid was by Alucard. But he still has a cannon, though. He has a cannon protected by the infantry, so he's still in pretty good shape there. Yeah, he should be able to defend that, I think. Shotgun Khan isn't doing too good, but Hishe's doing excellent. He's going to be able to probably get another barracks out and add some more defense here. He's also picking up textile mills, so he's got some more coin to work with. Where's Russia at this point? So Russia still has a TC, right? So they're not completely knocked out. How many vills they still got? That's a good question. Do they have any vills? Yeah, he's got 15 here. How many over here? So he's got about 30 vills. Definitely got knocked out a little bit, but nothing too fatal. At least when you have an ally that's just built up over here. Whereas Alucard, looking almost ready for Imperial Age, where he actually can get the Guard and Imperial upgrade for the other units in his roster. So if you wanted to go with the full upgrades on the honor guards and so forth, you could. Cherry guns. The weird thing about these cans is once they shoot once, they die instantly. That's what sort of makes them feel a little bit weird. They like fire one cannonball, and since they're made of like cherry wood, they're like wooden guns. You just like blow up or whatever. Very powerful though. It's like a cherry bomb. Very powerful. I wonder if he's gonna go for a snipe on this cannon. Yeah, he's gonna scout him out, he's gonna target it perfectly, and then he's gonna... Yep, he sniped it with the cherry gun. Perfect. Yeah, and then they just die instantly. After doing their shot. Just maxing out the line infantry, it looks like.
Signore.
Good fight overall here by Hishe. He's definitely holding his own here. Still keeping up with the build production too, which is really important. Is almost at about 2/3 of the builds he can max out as. In terms of the upgrades, still needs Royal Mint, but mostly has them all. So this is looking like a pretty optimal eco to have. Going Imperial right now with Tsar Ferdinand I. I wonder if we could see a Great War Age by Alucard. Or if he would have to wipe out a substantial number of those line infantry. Because technically, once you hit Imperial Age, and there's not a lot of enemy units, you can actually go Great War Age. Get that ball rolling. Yeah, I could do that. Then I could just mass out soldiers, make a bunch of Appelchants, and then turn them into the Chorophylax and the Sagjas sailors. Depending on if they're on a horse or not, of course. Oh, so he's going to make the Farpanzers, the mobile armors, the heavy artillery of the Balkan states. Yep, using being able to create them in blocks of 10 thanks to that Levski's Legion card that I mentioned before. Also starting to get the Patriot Guard upgrade on, which is relatively cheap, and then the Imperial upgrade would be more costly, of course. Essentially the difference between a tower house and a normal outpost or redoubt is the tower house does give you some population since it is a house. But it also contains your Civ's arsenal technologies as well. It's actually based on the Maniote structures of the Greeks. You know, the Maniotes, the ones that resisted Ottoman rule on the coast of the Peloponnese Peninsula. On the jagged rocky coast. Yeah, that's basically what these tower houses are based on. Even though in this game all the nation-state Civs can have them. Quite a good battle there, but unfortunately Rommel's Nuka spam is winning out on here. Yeah, so the build limit did go up. Yeah, it's about 56. 56 clubmen, that's pretty dangerous. He doesn't even have all the upgrades on, like he could have gotten some of the other native combat cards that are available to Bolivia. I believe they still have like native attack. Something, so yeah, I could have gotten that for sure. It's going to be again the certainly going to be getting the guard upgrade on these clubmen now too, so they're going to be even more powerful. Again, the Imperial upgrade on the mobile armors, Tsar's mobile armors. Yeah, should be able to get Great Warriors now too if you want to. Has enough resources, I think, for that investment. Italy resigned. You know, Russia's going to do the same at any moment. What would that be? The Imperial upgrade on the Opalshan Cavalry, the Tsar's Opalshan Cavalry? Yeah, and then you got these red shirts. These are actually a Dragoon unit, believe it or not, a maneuver unit. They're actually similar in stats to the Counter Dragoons from Definitive Edition because they have a multiplier against other Dragoons instead of multipliers against artillery and hand cavalry. And they're mercenary, correct? Yeah, they're mercenary. Alucard also resigns to make it a fair 1v1 between Shakam Khan and yeah, I think Rommel at this point has it in the bag. Yeah, with that much Juanito Comida at that point, he's gonna clean house here, I think. Especially when these clubmen completely maneuver the infantry and go right for the cans. Way too much HP on these Nukas at this point. 460 HP. Cans can't wipe them out that easily anymore. Good work, Rommel. The last survivor at all. Let's look at the post game here and see what Alucard obviously has the most resources of everyone here. That's very surprising. Yeah, Alucard's a real expert at this game, you know. He can really pick up any civ and he just does really well with it. In terms of military, got the most Rommel actually did with this native spamming. His 184 Nuka Clubman did it. Yeah, and Alucard was second with those Opalshan spamming. With Shakam Khan having the most units but the least kills. So, yeah. Numbers don't always mean everything, right? Stats do too. Definitely, 100%. So now I'm going to boot up the fourth game that I got saved for us today. Ooh, we got some more chat over here. Uh, Raul Reyes. Good night, let's see. I'm Rommel. Oh, welcome, Rommel. We've seen you do some pretty good games today. You've actually been in every single game we've seen today so far. Both the first one, the second one, and the third one. He's Rommel. I'm Potato. Nice to meet you. Mandalore Vlad the Potato. Hello, is this the 5th edition? Rec Games Wool, this is not the 5th edition. This is actually Legacy Age of Empires 3. In order to play Wars of Liberty, you actually have to get Age of Empires 3, the completed collection on Steam, or you need to buy the disc version. Either the Steam Legacy or the Legacy disc version will work with Wars of Liberty. With it, you'll get a lot of good civs. You'll essentially be able to get a lot of good perks with that. So, honestly, if you already own the old game, picking up Wars of Liberty and playing it for yourself is a really great idea. But, you know, with the increased price of Complete Collection now, to market everybody towards DE, I can understand why for some it might be really expensive. But I would think if you had any reason to buy the Legacy game, I would certainly consider you picking up the Legacy game just to play Wars of Liberty, basically, because it's a really good game to play. Yeah. So, hopefully we still got Rommel. Juanito Rommel over here, and we will see if he shows up in any more games that we have here today. So what other games did I have? So we got this one here called let me see, Grabar Partita Uno. So this is another one that I uploaded to my save game folder from the Wars of Liberty multiplayer Discord. So we'll do this one now. Alright, so what civs we got? So we got Rommel, the star of the game, playing as the Belgians. Alucard playing Bulgaria again. Sass playing, what else would he play? Japan. And Aladin Topak playing as Gran Colombia. So, good variety of civs. So, before we get started, we need to check the map out really quickly. I forget what this map is called, but I know all about it. Basically, you got this trade route in the center of the map that you can grab TPs on, and then on the sides you get the native sites, right? You got the Navajo, and you get any other natives on this, but the Navajo, you get a Navajo and a Klamath, from what I see here. So, some pretty good native options in terms of skirmishers, for sure. Yeah. In general, the way this map can be played is a bit tricky because you do have these cliff sides that opens way to these more desert-like environments on the side here. So if you're willing to, you know, venture out into these wide open areas underneath the cliffs, go do it to grab some mines and some food. Otherwise, you're going to be staying on the more narrow trade route side of the grassland up here as you push towards your opponent. It's a good map overall, both for like 1v1 and for the team game. So this should be a pretty fun one, I think. Yeah. So any new civs today? We got Japan. Everybody knows about Japan. We've seen this for the past, this is game number 3 of Alucard's Bulgaria people. So we already sort of know what he's going to do. He's going to get his dairy processing, build a bunch of cows, make some hamburgers, some steaks, some cheeseburgers, get a big stockpile of food, and then he's going to like raid around the whole map with Levski's Legion, Appelsheim Cavalry. Train them in 10 blocks of 10 so they come out super duper fast. And because Alucard's an MVP of this game, he doesn't even need crates of villager cards. He just sends a bunch of upgrade stuff. Aladin Topak is going to be doing Gran Colombia this time, which should be pretty interesting. I wonder how he's going to do it compared to the way Rommel was doing. Is he going to go with different ultimate units, same ultimate units, or all of the ultimate units, since you can make all 4 of them, if you so choose it that way with your age-ups. And then Rommel, when playing a new Civ, playing the Belgians. So the way Belgium works is, you start the game with a frontier wagon. And with that frontier wagon, you can build a number of things. You can build a trading post, which Rommel did right over here. You can build a outpost. You can build a tavern, your saloon. And this means Belgium can actually take over trade routes pretty quickly. And on top of the regular option, they do have this little rope over here you can see hidden behind all these buttons. And essentially what this rope does is, instead of delivering you experience, the trade route will actually cause a gathering debuff on your enemy villagers every time the animal or the train comes by the trading post, and the debuff will last a number of seconds. On trade routes that are with the TPs are a bit closer together, that debuff can stack pretty quickly. And obviously the debuff is probably going to be more prevalent the more trading posts that you have, as that train is moving in towards those trading posts ever more quickly, right? And clearly too, the faster your thing along the route is, a normal set of walking units like a Traveler is going to be pretty slow to deliver that debuff. But again, in a stagecoach or a train eventually will cause the debuff against your enemies to be even more substantial. Yeah. So this is the Rommel deck. Rommel is playing pretty standard PvP Belgians, I think. 4 crates is pretty normal for Belgium, actually, as well as the shipments for line infantry and hussar. You get this interesting card, Fortified Trading Posts. It actually allows your trading posts to fire cannonballs, so they essentially become like little mini forts, where the cannonballs deal crush damage and they do splash damage. So if you're not going for a full frontal assault on a trading post as the enemy, you can end up losing all your units if you're not careful. You get this interesting card called Rikswak. Essentially what happens is it causes all your volunteers, your modern day crossbowmen, to lose their wood costs but cost more food. But then they can be trained from the towers, the outposts as well, which is always nice. And the rest of the cards are pretty centered around the unit shipments, the fort. Textile industry. This is a card you don't always see. Basically what it does is it does research steam power, making it free basically. And it gives your factories plus 35% hit points, so it becomes harder to snipe factories with it. Yeah, and don't be fooled by this deck. Rommel is playing normally here. So the way factories work with Belgium is this. You start out with only one factory card, the Sion Industriel. Gives you the factory, and then it basically allows steel guns to train 25% quicker. And then in Imperial Age, you have a politician option called the Manufactory Owner, which lets you get the second factory. So you get through the age up and not through the home city. In a way, though it does delay the amount of steel guns you can get up front, it does allow you to get more in the late game. And it does save you 1 card slot in the home city as well. So you can get another villager card, you can get another military shipment, another crate, another upgrade potentially, something else that you're looking for in your deck to go and do something. Now this is interesting. Sask is actually using the missionary shipments here. This is actually really powerful because what this means is these missionaries will provide unction to his Japanese soldiers. And it's signified because when the missionary is within a certain distance of the units they're affecting, you'll actually see this golden light from the heavens shine down on their heads to let you know that they're boosting them. And they'll do some much better damage as well. Just keep in mind you can only have about 4 missionaries at a time to sort of keep them fair and balanced. Imagine if you could still get Imagine if you could get like 10, 20 missionaries all boosting units. That snowball would be really horrendous. For sure. And this is something I find kind of interesting too with SAS. He takes advantage of the fact that the Torii Gate wonder comes with the free samurai, and he meets that up by shipping 3 samurai. So instead of going the normal... And then he ships samurai again because he can ship unit shipments and crate shipments for Japan twice. This means he's effectively going for a samurai rush with the Torii Gate. It's something you don't expect, and I think if a player's not used to it, could actually throw them off a little bit. When you deal with Japan, you either go Gunto Rider, the hand cavalry, you either go with the Kie, the skirmisher, you go with the Shiguma, the musketeer, or the line infantry. But going with the samurai, using that, means you're instead going to be chasing him down and sieging a lot of his stuff. One other thing that's pretty dangerous about that is essentially, who is this Alden? Oh, that's his ally, yeah. So basically what that means is, now Sask and Alden Topak are going to have a pretty interesting unit composition here. The artillery from Alden are going to be a really strong anti-infantry presence to protect the samurai, so the samurai can actually counter all of Alucard's cavalry. This might actually be a pretty deadly combination against Rommel and Alucard if they're not careful. Because samurai, as you know, they deal splash attack. The artisanal cannons, they deal some pretty good damage overall, so that can be a pretty deadly thing if you're not careful, for sure. Over here, yeah. Just wish they'd grab that trading post there and even it up with their opponents, Rommel's basically taking the trade route, which is pretty normal as Belgium. Looks like Sask has his shrines assigned to the wood. So, he just changed it to coin. Because that's one of the powerful things about Japan is you got the shrines, which the more ammos you got onto those shrines, the more they can trickle you resources. Like 4 ammos like this equates to about 0.34 coin per second, basically. Which means you can get a really good economy to the point that you can afford stuff like Samurai. Which, pretty expensive unit. 2 pop, 100 coin, 100 food. Very pricey. Now we're going to see here if their push can actually succeed here. I like how they're slowly moving together and using teamwork to slowly push forward together. But you do need to keep the samurai... Well, he should really have them in the middle of these cannons to a point that they can quickly maneuver. But yeah, take out that trading post because it is going to deal crush damage against your cans, which might be a serious threat. Don't push the cans too forward though, because then Alucard's going to intercept you. So yep, they took out the trading post. Great. Now they can start to move on towards the enemies down here. Rommel has gone to Capital Age, which means he could maybe intercept this by constructing some sort of fort. He could also make the Miyataru's machine guns. He will actually go for the Force Publique skirmishers. But unfortunately, artisanal cans do have 21 range. So they microscopically outrange the skirmishers. So if Alden Topak is microing pretty good, he might actually be able to blast some of these skirms of his. Oh, this is pretty dangerous for Alucard. You got the samurai right in his base. And they're going to go right after his chief there. The siege their stable down. What's Alucard doing? He's going for Appelsand infantry. Yep, cannons intercepting that tower. Yeah, this is actually kind of serious here, because this could force Rommel and Alucard onto the backpedal defensively. Samurai a serious threat, especially when they're this close to. About 33 melee attack now with 1 splash. Not to mention you got that ranged cover fire from the artisanal cans, which unfortunately these Force Belliques are right up against right now. Tried to go after him with the line infantry in bayonet mode, but just not enough. They got completely shredded over there, and now the samurai are snaring the skirmishers. Do they even have anything that they can even counter this with at this point? That's a good question, actually. He could actually try to intercept these cannons with the peasants, the villagers. That's what he's gonna... Oh, he made the boyar. He made the emergency unit. And you know what you can do with the emergency unit? When you make the emergency unit for the nation states, he buffs up the... Right now he's called the boyar, yep. He actually beefs up the stats of your villagers, turn them into decent warriors with 600 HP and 15 range damage and 33 hand attack. So the villagers essentially gain the ability to counter the samurai. And now basically, these cannons are exposed now, at least until these, what you need to do is you need to wipe out this boyar right away. So the peasants go back to normal stats. We'll wipe out that peasant though. Yeah, get that samurai onto those hussars if you can. Try to wipe them out. Yep. Oh, that's bad. He lost his Takamori over there. That's unfortunate. He lost Iago Takamori, his Gensui. Gensui are simply just daimyos from the Legacy game, just with a different name. They serve the same purpose, training military units and receiving shipments and beefing up the stats of the units near them. Unfortunately for Sass, though, we had him a little bit too close for comfort and lost the thing. Yeah. Now imagine if they went for Rommel's base. That could have been kind of serious. Like, Rommel doesn't have that sort of boost in his base, right? So yeah, he would have ran into some serious problems there. Yeah. Yeah, pretty good defensive unit though, making a boyar, because now your villagers are basically almost unraidable now with 600 HP. Not to mention a chance to get him even strong. Well, he already got the card, Martinista, that actually gives him additional HP and allows him to chop wood up, so he does die on his own. Alright. So, yep, now the peasants ate their tofu and had their estrogen, and now they're weak again. No longer tough villagers. Bunch of soy boys. Bunch of beta, you know what's. Yep. So what's good? Well, they did a pretty good job at stalling out Alucard's eco though, because now he's only mostly doing food now. Does he have any crates left? Nah, he doesn't have any crates, that's the problem. And Rommel is protecting him with a fort now. What's Rommel at eco? So he's got a lot of food. His coin is also pretty low. What's going on the opposing side there is Sask. Yep, Sask's about ready for age 3. Aladin Topak. He's already age 3 right now, and he's could actually start to get some stuff pretty soon here. Oh, Samurai! Snare. Fortunately not enough though, because these Samurai are too slow, basically. Always going Costrimbo. Costumbrisimo. That's a card you don't always see. Basically, it's a Juanito version of a covered wagon shipment. Gives you a covered wagon, and it also allows wagons to move faster and construct faster. So, in like a real combat situation, when you're worried that a player might intercept your covered wagon and snipe it down, it's very unlikely to happen with this unless they're very close, because that TC will actually go up super fast. And it ensures in the future things like your immigrant colonies, which you might be making from a wagon, or factories, or even towers from frontier defenses, will also move and construct faster as well, which will give you a pretty good defensive edge when you're dealing with opponents. Sask is also capital age at this point, going for the 7 villager shipments. I think the problem's going to come when Sask and Aladdin think that Alucard's still exposed. And they end up meeting that nasty fort head on with the Campbells falling upon them. Honestly. Ooh, katana combat. I think unfortunately they're gonna get wiped up, cleaned up by the Force Publiques though. Force Publiques were pretty interesting, you know, they got obviously skirmishers, but they also have multipliers against native warriors. So if in fact Chakram Khan was using the Civ in the last game against Rommel's clubmen, they might have actually had a real breeze dealing with them, because they'd really be dealing like 3x against them, because you would be combining the anti-heavy infantry with the anti-native attack. And then when you get counter-infantry rifling, then it's a whopping 4x against heavy infantry, if it's a native. So yeah, Force Publique is a pretty interesting unit to say the least. And if I recall correctly, they have a good rate of fire as well. At least they did before. I think once Alucard gets enough food from those geese for capital age, he's going to begin a covered wagon with that good old Bulgarian politician fellow he usually goes with. Yeah. Also getting the cows ready as well. So again, the nice porterhouse and ribeye steaks going on the farmer's lodge grill over there. How does something turn from a hunting lodge to a farmer's lodge? Kind of interesting. So what do they do instead of fighting the they have arrows in the icon too, so instead of chasing the huntables down with a bow and arrow, you chase them down with what's like a farming pitchfork or a hoe or something like that. Yeah, kind of interesting. Very interesting. Samurai, again, singled out. I think it's going to come down to how quick these Juanitos end up booming themselves up. We know Sasuke is going to boom up pretty insanely. He's actually going into the Industrial Age with the Shogunate right now. Shogunate will be great because he'll actually be able to retrain his Gensui that he's already made. You know, he'll be able to get Saigo Takamori back. He also can add in Yamagata Yoritomo as well as that other one that you get. I believe it's the one with the very long mustache. Chasing away those hussars. Industrial Age Japan. Always gonna get some of those Kanahau cannons. Basically modern day flaming arrows with the same stats, so good against arty, good against infantry, and good against buildings. Also has some decent eco-techs here as Royal Mint, Refridge, as well as the Heavenly Kami to boost up the rates on the shrines. Doesn't have the infinite shipment for the Guntos. He should have just gotten infinite 6 Gunto riders. That way he'd have constant shipments available of something. He does have an infinite shipment of wood, so I guess he has an infinite shipment of something, I guess. Look at all these Musketeros, though. They're going to completely intercept this here. This is actually really bad. Really bad, yeah. So now the Musketeros are going to drive right on top of the Force Publiques and generate all that splash damage against them. Why are you going back, man? You should slice into the cav or you should be pushing it to skirms, because now you're snared and now you're gonna lose to these now, because now you're not. Yeah, you could have handled that a little bit better. Now you're gonna give Rommel the edge on that. Well, he's repositioning though, so he might get a couple more down. Choosing to go back to fight the Hussars again. If there's anything we know about Sask, he's really good at putting up a really good economy. Where's Eldon at? So yeah, how many bills does Eldon have at this point? He's got about 47. How many ecotechs is he? So he's got the Team Grand Cacao, the Grand Coco. He's got the Refridge. He's got the Cafetales, and he's got cigar rollers. So he's got some pretty good ecotechs there. Antioquia colonization, so if he does get a immigrant, he'll be able to get double the build limit of them. Does he have any immigrants that he's gotten so far, or has he mostly been sticking with Colombian politicians? I don't see any immigrant colonies anywhere, so it's safe to say that he might just be going Grand Colombia politicians for now. You can actually get a German immigrant colony from the home cities, so in a way, you don't actually have to totally sacrifice immigrants if you don't want to. Just going full Grand Colombia politicians to get the 4 ultimate units. You can just go 4 ultimate units with German immigrants if that's fine with you. Or you can opt to get German immigrants, another immigrant in one age, and then get 3 Grand Colombia ultimate units that way too. So you got some pretty nifty options as the Colombians, again, lots of different unit varieties. Just depends if you want to pay XP to get those units or you want to pay regular resources. Took out those Belgian machine guns, the Mia to use. Oh, we finally see some honor guards here. The honor guards, a pretty formidable unit. Where did these come from? Were these shipped or... No, they were not shipped. They were trained. Yeah, this is the cool thing about the honor guard for the Balkan civs. Whereas most heavy cav like the Cuirassier and Escolta, base their strength off of damage, the honor guard does it off of tankiness. So the honor guard gives up really bonkers attack for having both 30% pierce armor and 30% hack armor. This makes it impervious to both ranged threats like the dragoons, a little bit more, as well as like melee attacks like spears and bayonets. And it's also only a 2-pop assault unit, so you can mass them in larger numbers. So they're pretty good massable unit. It's like a really tanky hussar. Look at all these cannons. Look at all these cans, though. He really needs to back it up and get over here with the support and stuff, though. So he's gonna cost them. Oh, look at all the damage those cans did to the assault units, though. Took out one of the honor guards. Oh, double fording over here. Double fording. I'm gonna try double fording over here. Doing a pretty decent job trying to target down those honor guards, though. But now he's got a huge stack of them, though, so this is going to be a serious problem. A very serious problem. Now, this is a pretty good upgrade card when you're doing the honor guards, is Alexander's Star. Basically, it actually affects the honor guards more than it does the Opalshire Cavalry, because it actually adds 20% HP and attack to the honor guards, but only 15% to the Opalshire Cavalry. So that's a really great way to boost up your Opalshire, your honor guards, your assault unit. Now, that's a pretty big swarm of honor guards, though. Alucard working completely off of beefy stats here, and kinky stats to do some damage here. Dragoons, units being forced onto melee to try to get the max value damage out of these honor guards. Surviving that onslaught of the honor guards, which I'm pretty surprised by, but they did lose all their artillery, though. Yeah. He's gonna have to get Nagoa Kagaishi out of there, though, unless he wants him to die. He's basically almost dead as it is. They're gonna have to, like, reconvene somewhere else to deal with those. Oh, Alucard's doing Grenzers as well, so he's going to, like, normal units now. Because he knows these guys are more of a serious threat. But yeah, because Bulgaria gets their technologies to their regular units later, it means unfortunately Alucard has to fight this match out with only veteran upgraded honor guards and Grenzers. He can't get the guard upgrade. Actually has to wait till Imperial Age to get both guard and Imperial upgrades for both of these units. The only units he can get at the guard level are the weaker Opalshite units. Bicycle infantry, that's kind of an interesting option. So basically what bicycle infantry are, they're considered a counter skirmisher. So instead of like normal skirmisher stats, they actually do 3x against skirmish units, so things that are skirmishers. As well as a slight multiplier against villagers, so they double as a raiding unit as well. Now, population-wise, they're about 2 pop, so they're not as massable as, say, the Francotiradores or the 1 pop Cazador Montados are. Yeah, they can be pretty good, you know. If you get caught off guard by him and you have your vills in the open. We'll see if he has any, like, open villagers anywhere. That's pretty lucky. He doesn't have any villagers for these bicycle infantry over here to really raid. So he's going to be searching, rolling those wheels for a while before he finds something to stop the pedals and shoot at. It's kind of weird because you don't have enough complicated mechanics for animation in this game. It looks like they're literally riding on motorcycles because the bikes are practically riding them, pushing forward themselves without the pedals. You don't see any like little spinny stuff there. It looks like, oh, these are the pedals moving or anything. Nah, they're really riding motorcycles without a visible motor. There is actually motorcycles in Wars of Liberty, you know. The dispatch riders for the Africans is actually a motorcycle mounted unit that has multipliers against artillery, making it like a mounted culverin equivalent for the World War One age. Villagers getting into the TCs just in time to avoid getting sniped. Pretty good for them. Board guards being researched. That's essentially board guards and mound guards are basically the same as the church training upgrades for the Europeans, basically. Sask getting some honored Shiguma, so those are guard. Getting civil servants finally, which will help a bit with the wood shopping at this stage. It's going to be chasing down these bike infantry with the Gunto riders. This is a good option because, as you know, Japanese hand cavalry does have the multiplier against the skirmish class. So yeah, they're going to have a field day ripping through these. Really good unit to intercept with. You just don't want your villagers in there firing their Yumi bows at them. It's just not going to end well. So get them out of that dangerous situation and get them to some safety. Sask with 33-44 on the score, so he's behind Alucard, obviously, because nobody can out-eco Alucard, but otherwise doing better than the other contestants. Escopetero. I'm a little concerned with that choice by Alden. Because, unfortunately, Columbia doesn't get RG upgrades for the Escopetero. Because you really need to consider the Escopetero, even though it wields a shotgun, as like a Latin American crossbowman. It's like your early skirmisher that costs fluent wood. So, unless you get Royal Guard for that civ, you can only get it up to the veteran upgrade. Which is a little slow, obviously. Yeah. You can still get buckshot on him, which gives him 2 splash instead of 1, which is pretty nice, but no additional real stats upgrades beyond the gunpowder combat cards from your home city, which how many does Alden have? He's got this one, he's got this one, so he's got a good number of them. Alright. Yeah, the civs with the best Escopetero is probably Haiti, that gets some Royal Guard. Also, Central Americans get Royal Guard too. So those, if you like the Escopetero unit a lot, those are probably the civs you want to make with them. Probably, just saying. Is there any others? No, actually no. Oh, Paraguay. That's right. Paraguay gets Royal Guard Escopeteros as well. The Petilla is just whatever it is in Guarani or Juanito Español, whatever. Yeah. Still pumping out villagers in Colombia. Gran Colombia. How many vills? It's 75. encroaching towards that max of 90. Where's Sask in terms of hills? Can still get about 10 more. Oh, but he's going with the Portuguese Expeditionary Army, so he's going to be adding Lusitano Dragoons for good anti-assault, and 2 Culverins to deal with their artillery. Not a bad option, actually. Not a bad option. You just have to be really worried when, Bulgaria goes Imperial Age, because these Honor Guards are going to really gain a lot of stats. Because their Royal Guard upgrade, which is unique, actually grants them... They become the convoys, essentially. And what the convoys do is... They actually have 10% additional armor values. So 40% Pierce armor and 40% Hack armor. So those types of Honor Guards, the convoy ones, become unbeatable tanks in terms of being able to tank damage. And of course they got more HP as well than the standard Honor Guards do, so they become a really nasty thing to deal with. Quite challenging. How are the Escopeteros doing? So, I mean, they seem to be holding the line a little bit right now. I think in a sense they might be a little bit better against the Honor Guards because they're popping out multiple bullets in different directions. So there's always a chance that an Honor Guard might get hit by multiple bullets, which means it's going to do more damage. And also, by the way, a distinction between early skirm and late game skirm is the early skirm only gets a malice against scout units, whereas late game skirms, like these, get a malice against assault units. So in a sense, Escopeteros deal full damage actually against the Honor Guards. At least when you consider malices. Whereas Grenzer would not. But opposite is true for the late gamer skirmishers. The late game skirmishers can indeed do pretty fair damage against Hussar stuff, but not the heavier cav. Unfortunately, though, Honor Guards were able to find their way to these culverins, and they're not going to be very useful for Japan. Is that right? Yeah, just barely scraping that one off. Too bad, because now you're reaching towards the machine guns in the back. This would be the time if you wanna. It's pretty alright, though, because he's... Oh, he had the missionaries there, and they lost him. I could see the little golden holy light shine over those villagers' heads, saying that they were basically blessed and ready to defeat the blessed god Alucard himself in battle. Yep. Add in some of the Guard Gunter Riders. Oh, a factory! Wouldn't that be a shame to lose? Okay, that could be interesting. But it could also be a trap. I mean, if you're stupid enough to, like, fully siege on this thing and let his troops get an edge on you, that could be bad. Here comes the police elephants. This is the ultimate unit of Belgium. Yes, Belgium can make war elephants. Yeah, they're basically the Persians of the 19th and 20th century. They can make war elephants. Yeah, basically how these elephants work compared to the Mahoutsas of the Indians. Instead of having like weird Sawar-like multipliers, they just have straight up tons of HP and attack. And if I recall, they don't get any armor, right? Additional armor, they only get like 10% hack armor, so they get a little bit of armor because of assault, but not a whole lot, basically. Yeah, the thing is with the war elephants, though, they're pretty pop heavy. Cost like 7 pop to your army, and then you only have 5 of them. So, they're not the main. In the old days, when you could have as many ultimate units as you want, spamming police elephants was a meta for Belgium, but now, They're really just something you throw in the front of your army to just disrupt their lines of infantry, for the most part. And yeah, they can do pretty good. Yeah, target the factory. Get the factory. No, get the factory. Actually, no, he's getting the steel gun. Yeah, get that it's too late, though. Yeah, too late. Still holding the line, I guess. But and then you have to retreat. Might have to. Might have to retreat. It's actually doing fairly well here. Really well on this frontal push. Had a bit of nasal drip or something. I don't know. But back to commentating. Yeah, I mean, now you're going to have to retreat, I think. Because you just don't have the numbers to sustain any losses. Gensui there. Oh, what did... Oh, these are the Immortals. Oh, yeah, these guys. The mercenary Morochukos. Kind of an interesting unit. If you don't know what a Morochuko is, it was this old Peruvian unit. There was a dragoon, but a dragoon that could hunt animals. The original Morochuko was deleted from the game, from the Peruvian roster, but the mercenary version, the Immortal, remained, basically. So what the Immortal mercenary can do is it can hunt animals, and it can has some really good multipliers of 4x against assault units. Kind of an interesting unit, and it doesn't really use a gun. It actually uses a bolas, just like the bolas warriors do. Yeah. Oh, here comes the Hadamao Samurai. Notice how modern they look in this game. You know, they don't look like the Ronins at all that you remember from the Legacy game. Here they look a lot more Western in their design, with more European style attire. What's this? Whoa, 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 whoa. Right into the Hanamao Samurai. Oh, no. Oh, that was a good blow, though. That was a good blow right there. That's gonna hurt Rommel's score. But still, Rommel still has a score greater than any of his opponents do. Just picking up dike-controlled canals now. I'm pretty surprised. Isn't this, like, rice paddy tech only like 150 wooden coin? Yeah, I'm pretty surprised it hasn't even picked that one up yet. Pretty shocked by that, actually. It's starting to get the 10 block units now, too, here. The Bushido principles. I'm just curious how this last fight's gonna go over here. Yeah, this is looking pretty chaotic. I think it's the end of the road for this team. They got like nothing here to defend this. He's gonna lose the Shogunate, he's gonna lose going Pavilion, he's gonna lose stats. What is going on here, man? Oh, and then the steel guns in the back. Yeah, this is not looking good. Steel guns are just gonna plow through everything. Yeah, just very unfortunate. Upper Shank Cavalry are gonna wipe them out. They even require an Imperial Age from Alucard. I'm very impressed. He was about to get Tsar Ferdinand too, and they was probably gonna get like all the upgrades, including the convoy onto the honor guards. Determine the little beast. You can do that, you know. You can go full honor guard with Bulgaria, and then combine them with their Great War Age cavalry, which is an actual anti-cavalry unit, and then you can get a pretty nice combo going with them. So wipe out enemies with. And when I mean anti-cavalry, the World War I cavalry that the Balkans get actually has a multiplier against all shock units. So any mountain unit. Maneuver and mounted skirm included, so it's pretty powerful. Yeah. Anyways, post-game, Alucard, all that steak, all that porterhouse, all that ribeye, all that T-bone, all that steak, totally gave him a really good eco there. Japan, not laughable, but actually Rommel got a little bit more. So Rommel was doing alright. Colombia has a pretty slow economy, honestly. So, I mean, can't really say that I'm really surprised with that, honestly. Really not. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, though. But, these are the kills. Japan actually got the most kills, but they also had the most units. Pretty good. Pretty good, I would say, in terms of performance in that area. Let's look at the villagers, though. This is one that, you know, the devs always like to see. So, yeah. Yeah, Sask sort of went high with his villagers and plateaued about here, but he can have a lot less villagers than everyone else can because he has the shrines. In terms of shipments, yeah, Sask was doing really good in that area, just because he was doing really well in the eco and the military department of things. I think we got like one more game queued up to go. And check it out. Let me load this up. I have to look for what I called it in the end. I might even have to check my downloads folder to see what I named it. Oh yeah, Rommel, they ignored your factory. They wanted you to make steel guns and dominate them. They love getting dominated. Is Toy Catch on due? No more games? Sad? What are you talking about, Rec Games? Well, is Toy Catch on due? What's Toy Catch? Does anybody know what Toy Catch is? I don't know what Toy Catch is. I never heard of Toy Cats before. Very new to me. I'm gonna put a light on because it's getting a little dark in here. It's about nighttime right now. Just gonna put a light on. You can look at the nice record files I got in the meantime. Let me set this up. Alright, let me turn that light on, then we'll look for that last game and do it. If that one now syncs, we'll just do another one and I'll download another one. Alright, let me look up my downloads folder and see what I named that thing. I called it Bolivia, so that's what we're looking for, a game called Bolivia. Because it has Bolivia of all things. Yeah, it has Bolivia. Bolivia and a Bolivian game. Who figured? Yeah. Oh, so I think we're gonna get the... Wait a second, let me pause this. Oh, we're getting Eternity's Bolivia now. The one that invented Bolivia meta. This is going to be a pretty good one. And then what's Rommel got? Rommel has Danish. Hishay has Italy. Darkus has Japan. I think we've seen a lot of Japan today. We have seen a lot of Japan today. Quite impressive. Quite impressive. Yeah, so let's check out the map real quick before we get started with this. We're on Florida, you know, the place where Disney World is, so that's pretty cool. You got the coastline, those nice Florida beaches over here. Just don't get stung by the jellyfish, of course, when you're swimming. Always stay safe, but in general, it's a great place to get some fish. It's a great place to get some whales. You got the midsection here, where all the grass is. It's pretty open, you know, not a lot of barriers. You got some mines here, of course, and some animals you can eat. And then as you move towards here, you got the swamp. You know, the swamp's a pretty interesting place. You know, you can build on the grass, but you can't build in the swamp itself, but you can walk through the swamp. Even though I really wouldn't want to walk through the swamp, especially when you got those nasty gators in there that could get a real bite on your leg, and you won't even know it. So don't go walking in the swamp at night. It's just not safe. Might even get bitten by a poisonous snake, which they have in those swamps too. So just, yeah, Florida's got many different wonders and many things that can kill you as well. So be careful. Let's get started. All right, so we got Bolivia. I want to look at Bolivia first. Do we know what deck he's going to go with just yet? Oh, he's got a wide variety of decks here. He's got Great War Rage, FI, without training posts. It says without training posts. Sin and Juanito languages without training posts, but he has War of the Republicatos, even though he doesn't. Yeah, that's. Now, Mestizaje I can understand because it actually increases your native build limit a bit, but War of the Republicatos on the map, it doesn't have train posts. That's just a meme, a living meme, honestly. Yeah, pretty much. This is I actually didn't go over Danish that much. I guess I'll explain them a little bit. So, the thing that makes Danish a bit different from other European civs is they start the game with enough experience crates to get a instant shipment. And Rommel's going to end up going with Colbertism to get a food trickle here. And that also means basically in Age 2 you can effectively get 2 shipments before you age up. You know, you can get Colbertism and then you can get either 2 settlers, or you can even send your allies a ox cart. Right? And this is the ox cart right here. If you recall, the ox carts also appear in Age of Mythology, right? The ox carts? Yeah, both in the Nintendo version as well as the original version. What ox carts basically do in Wars of Liberty is they improve the gather rate of your villagers nearby. You can see that little green and yellow ring around the villagers telling you that they're gathering faster. And when you decide you don't want the ox cart anymore, what you can do is you can turn it into a economic building of some kind. You can turn it into a mill, you can turn it into a plantation, a market, a livestock pen. You can even turn it into an anchorage, which is the Danish unique dock that looks really neat. And with that, basically, you can start to do some fish booming. So, yeah, Danish can be a pretty interesting civ, to say the least. They got a bunch of weird little bonuses and stuff that they got, too. Looking at this deck, though, it's pretty clear that they're playing pretty standard PvP here. Couple of unit shipments, and then some of the more common mid-game ones in the Age 3. This is kind of a neat thing Danish get. They get focus school. Basically, it combines both fencing school and riding school together. So instead of 2 training cards, you only need to have 1 training card. Unless, of course, you're talking about engineering school, which you still need for the artillery. In terms of combat, Danish get this card. Fighter fighting, Rider fighting or whatever. Dragoons get more armor and attack. So they actually get more pierce armor than a standard Dragoon does, which means that they can essentially withstand skirms a bit easier, as well as other Dragoons. They can go more into bare combat with them. They actually get an extra card in Age 4, the Rear Guard combat, to improve the stats of their Grenadiers even further. And they also get Royal Guard Grenadiers too, the Live Guard. So in a sense, Danish get some of the strongest Grenadiers and Dragoons in the game, making them pretty powerful. And this is called the Enlightened Governor. The difference between a regular politician and an enlightened one is an enlightened politician gives you a golden age. And you got the King of Denmark right here, Frederick. Basically what he does is when you see him here, you're in a golden age. And your villagers, I believe you'll get more XP bounty while Golden Age is active, and I think you get a better gather rate from your villas as well. So it works pretty good for you in the end to have Golden Ages. You get Golden Ages from shipping cards as well as aging up. And there's even a lengthened Golden Age you can get with certain politicians and techs as well in the game. So if you like a little bit of extra XP and stuff on the side, definitely ship out some cards, get some age ups going to get more Golden Ages. Bolivia's going with the Italian immigrants. Always a good thing about going Italian immigrants in Age 2 is you get that Italian house right away, so you have a little bit of time to spare before you need to get another house going. Yeah. How many TPs does Turney already got? So he's got TP number 1, TP number 2, TP number 3, and he could actually grab some natives as well. He could grab the Seminole, he could grab this Seminole here, he could grab the Carib over here, right? So yeah, the more TPs you get, the more powerful War of the Republicatus is, the more Republicata Macaeats you're actually going to get. Yeah, so it behooves you to get as many native sites and trade route TPs as possible. Yeah, this is pretty powerful actually, this deck. I like it. Good balance between units and ramping with coin crates. So yeah, it's pretty powerful. Pretty substantial. Now my question is, how does Darkus going to play Japan a bit differently than his opponent is? Alright, snipe one of his shrine wagons, that's painful. Yeah, that's something you can actually do with Japan. They get these shrine wagon shipments where you get 4 wagons and you can build a shrine with. So that way you don't have to send your villagers or your monks on the front lines to construct shrines. You can use the wagons to do it for you. Of course, in Definitive Edition, they have a secondary one as well that actually boosts the rate of the shrines as well, but unfortunately this is Legacy, so you have to deal with the old school shrine wagons. Still, it's a good option, but not good when they obviously snipe your wagon like you saw right there. Or your rickshaw. It's just not good. And this is sort of the thing you can get away with Bolivia, is you can sort of harass around the whole map with like a big mass of Kayarunas and Republicate the Macaeats, constantly pressuring all over the place. Oh, they're going to take out one of their teepees, and guess what you could do? Unfortunately, can't do it because the town center is within, I think, a mortar's range. But what you could do if the TP was further back is you could actually try constructing onto this one again, even more, 3 more of these Mikaets. Yeah. Do they know about this barracks coming up? They could have stopped here and shot some of these. Probably would have been better, honestly. Also, picking up direct contribution, it allows your Pongos to trickle coin as they work. Essentially turn them into the Inca villagers, really. Go start sieging onto the barracks now. Then move on to the other one. Yeah, that was a good interception by Darkus, being able to go with the Kie skirmisher to intercept the mostly heavy infantry build that the Bolivians do, because the Kayaruna's heavy infantry, the Republic Cape de Macaid is heavy infantry. So if you can get like a skirm out like the Kie, that's a great way to intercept a Bolivian rush and stomp it out, basically. Because now Eternity only has like a small force left, and that gives Darkus and Hishe a bit of time to recuperate. I would let Hishe grab that second trading post so I can get his Italy up a bit quicker, because Hishe mostly relies on late game resource upgrades cards. So yeah, I would definitely let him get another trading post so he could propel himself a bit more with those. Because when we see Hishe get a lot of resources, he becomes a real beast. You know, he goes to Great War Age, he, fills his ships with flamethrowers and, burns entire towns to the ground. We've seen him do that before, so, yeah, it's just a really nasty, scary thing to deal with. Trust me, you don't want to see it when it happens. It's fear-invoking, basically. Huh, so Rommel actually went FI and got mortars with the politician. Very interesting. Very interesting. I didn't quite expect that, so Rommel's going to go for a mortar rush, it looks like, with his ally. Not bad. And he's going with the factory. I imagine he's going to turn this out to train the Espingolars, which is basically a Danish organ gun, machine gun, basically. It's like a Danish organ gun weapon. Yeah, pretty interesting, actually. Surprised. I've never seen Danish go for this type of a build before. What I think is more common and kind of interesting is you can actually send Team Early Artillery as the Danish, and you can train Falconets in Age 2. Or any Falconet equivalent that a Civ has. They can train that in Age 2. Pretty powerful. And then, of course, if you're Latin Americans or nation states and you already have something like Mule Artillery or Artisanal cans to fill that role, then it allows you to train them a bit faster as those civs. So essentially it means even if you do have early artillery, now you can mass it a bit quicker. Yeah. Yeah, this is looking like an Espingolar build, because now factory number 2 is going to come out. It's being built near the racks. It's just a matter of time before these get converted over to Espingolar production. I think he's just waiting for enough coin to research the training upgrade for heavy artillery. And then that's going to probably, yeah. Oh, he's making the Engineers as well. The Engineers. These Danish engineers. It's basically a Danish line infantry or a musketeer that repairs artillery, and then they can use its hammer to deal multiplier damage against artillery. If I believe correctly, it also has range multipliers against artillery too. It's like a really tough unit with crush damage that just really blasts through artillery pretty well. Yeah, 30 crush damage times 2 against artillery, so it can even fight like regular units fairly well. Then, of course, if it goes into melee with artillery, that can be a pretty good option for it. It also has 30% crush armor too, so it actually withstands cannon attacks fairly well. Not super well, but fairly well. Oh, Eternity's got the Juanitas muy bonitas, las vivenderas muy guapas. Very good. Love those Juanitas muy bonitas. Basically, it's the Latin American version of the Skirmisher, and its unique ability is it can actually heal your units. So yeah, they're not just doing a Juanita Bonita dance, they're just trying to heal up all those injured Juanitos Bonitos. Engineers and Espingolars. That's kind of an interesting combination to go with, I think. For sure. I got a call coming in. I'm going to pause it real quickly and then we can continue with the rest of this last game. Finish up this game. Alright, so where we left off, we saw Rommel doing a Engineer and potentially Espingoar heavy artillery base build. He's researching the mass production right now, and once that's completed, yep, he's already starting to get the Espingos going at this factory and this factory. Now they're going to come out a lot quicker now that he's gotten that going, basically. So, so it only improves the training rate of Espingolas by only 10%. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a boost, but it's not a big one. Pretty interesting. Yeah. I think what's going to happen is these Juanitos here might give Rommel too much time. And then he's going to basically build up as much Espingolas as possible and just plow forward, really. Yeah. Pretty much. Still, it's taking a good amount of time. One thing Japan could do to easily counter it, though, is get the canal cannons. You don't actually have canal cannon shipments. Wow, that's interesting. Very interesting. What's up with that? No canal shipments? We saw Safs do that. Why is he doing that? Yeah. So these are the Espangols, you know. They look like organ guns, but they only got like 3 little prongs sticking out of them, you know. Yeah. No little shooting pieces. I think before they looked like more fully fledged organ guns, but then they reduced them a little bit to make them look a little bit more accurate to what they look like in the icon here. With the 2 planks on the side and then the can spots, yeah. Oh, he did? He trained some canal stuff, so should be good. Looks like they fire with just 1 shot, but maybe it's... Oh, so it's like a cannon shotgun. It's got like 3 splash, but then, yeah, it's pretty interesting. Oh, the Onabushi. That's pretty fascinating. So the Onabushi are the 19th century version of the Yamabushi, you know, from the Japanese isolationism. So instead of the Yamabushi with this club, you get these angry Japanese women who chase you with their nagis, basically. And they're still considered to be anti-cap. Forced into a bit of a retreat there. I'm actually pretty impressed with the Assault the Darkest and Hitchday are kind of leading here. You know, fortunately the Alpini are a little exposed, but then Japan can easily supply that and support that. Yeah, I mean, they're doing fairly well here. I mean, Eternity is supposed to be an elite Juanito Burrito here. You know, Eternity in Definitive Edition has like an ELO of, I think, more than 14k, if I recall. He's like really good. Even better than HVNI, but Yuri seems to be faltering a bit here. So this is a pretty nice duel overall. More Espangolas have arrived, which is going to be a serious problem. Still got some canal nows though, so I mean you could probably fire back into that. Oh no, they got sniped by the engineers. This is actually a really nice combination. Engineers with Espangolas. The Espangolas do really good against the mass units, and then the Espangolas, the engineers actually act as counter culverins because of that 60 damage that they're dealing against all the cannons. Pretty good. Pretty good. Gensui Oyama Iwao. So this is the capital age Gensui you can get as Japan. You can get Saigo Takamori, you can get Yamagata Aritomo, so you can have a total of 4 Gensuis as Japan. And then there's the 5th one you can get as the Koreans, actually, as part of their consulate, as their giant force, basically. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. And unfortunately, the Gensui for Korea can only make consulate Japanese units. So you can't make some of your units, you have to make the Japanese units with it. But it still does, it can still receive shipments and it can still beef up the stats of your Korean units, though. Oh, having the mortars there still is a great way of popping off these castles. These are still heavy infantry, right? So, yeah. So basically the Gunterars don't get any multipliers against these. Still substantial damage, but, yeah, no multiplier damage. The thing that makes the Gunterars relatively good against the Engineers, though, is the fact that they don't have hack armor. Like most, like, musketeer units would normally get. So, yeah. Why didn't he commit? Oh yeah, he lost them anyways though. He should have just fully committed there and took out a cannon. Because now these Espangolas are going to get really out of hand now. He's just not going to have any solution to that problem. Yeah, pretty much. Oh wow, look at that blast. That like obliterated everything. That was a good blast. These cannons are good, these Espingolars. We need to see more of this, folks. You don't see these things enough, I think. No, because unfortunately only the Danish can make them, and not everybody likes raspberry apple or cheese danishes, so you don't see them enough. Wait a minute, they do fire multiple shots. I just watched it. I thought it did. Looked like it did. Unless I'm looking at it wrong. Might be looking at it slightly off. You know, it would be easier if this was Definitive Edition, because Definitive Edition gives you a little parentheses value next to your attack if it fires multiple shots. In Legacy, we don't have that, so you... Oh, it did... Yeah, it does fire multiple shots. It's like a super packed organ gun. Look at that. Look at all those little bullets flying out of it. Oh no, but then the Hishe foot artillery intercepts it. Yeah, so they do have their weaknesses. What's their range? They got a range of 20, so actually... Hishe might actually be able to counter these by going with the foot artillery and, you know, engaging in proper skirmishes with them. That might actually be a potential solution to his problem. I recommend he goes up for Industrial Age and gets the field gun upgrade on his foot artillery, so that way, how much HP they got? Yeah, then you could get max damage and maybe take him out easier that way. Yeah, it could totally work. use informers just so you can look around at the base. I don't like how they got their armies separated here, though, on the Japan and Italy side. They know they're dealing with a pretty formidable force like this. They do need to keep everybody together in unison. Rommel intercepting with Culverins, and also Eternity, Juanita Boliviana, and some Volantes, which are Juanito Culverins. Effectively protecting the, yeah, now it's too late, I think. Yeah, I think we're gonna get bombarded at this point. Raining some pretty deadly bullets into those heavy cavalry. Yeah, Japan's finished. Well, wait a second. The cannons disappear when you kill them. They don't even have a death animation. They just disappear. They get warped into an alternate evil dimension when they die. It's very sad. Ooh, yeah, these Spangolas are really, again, really strong units. Japan has resigned. What's Italy gonna do? Is Italy gonna try to hold it out? Yeah, they got some resources. I mean, they can keep it for their guard line infantry and to add in more coves. Should really begin Culverin Royale, though, if you know you're dealing with these things. Again, the factory. They could still get Industrial Revolution to get another factory. Pretty interesting. Yeah, I mean, not bad. Not bad at all. Ooh, yeah, they just vanish out thin air when you kill them. These Espangolas are from a different universe. A dark universe where Denmark rules the world. Don't ever forget the Mighty Seminoles. Here they are, the Sharktooth Bowmen, the Mighty Seminoles. Yep, never forget Sonori and the Mighty Seminoles, will ya? Don't ever forget. Good work by Rommel and Eternity to come up with a pretty unique strategy to handle this thing. Starting out with the Republic McKay rush and then transitioning to an FI Espangolar Engineer combination. I don't know how to pronounce that in Danish. Is that just plain old engineer but with Danish letters? Or is it engineer or I don't know. I don't want to understand Danish. It's weird. Weird Vikings. Weird Viking people. I like cheese Danishes. And raspberry Danishes. And cinnamon apple Danishes. There's all kind of Danishes, you know. I've had a Danish before that was the third cheese, the third of it was raspberry, and the other third was apple and cinnamon. All in one Danish. It was pretty good, you know, because it had a little bit of everything in it, and if you wanted to have the whole thing for like a meal, then it got a variety of flavors. So, triple Danish. Triple Danish. Post-game, Italy, really good eco, so they were pretty solid rock, I would say. Japan, worse eco, but slightly behind Rommel. But Rommel's understandable. I mean, Rommel was going for factory production, so he wasn't really going for resource production. He probably could have gotten a bigger resource output by the end if he was going with, like, resources, but he was going full Espangolar with his very own stuff in mind. That being said, 227 kills with Espangolar. I'm surprised Eternity actually got more kills out of it, though, and also Hisei did. Japan barely like a flea or a mosquito. Only 106 kills. Okay, that's pretty interesting. How about the eco? Like, yeah, Rommel sort of didn't go much anywhere. Yeah, but Japan, pretty low on the scale there. Eternity, though, the thing is with Bolivia, you can get pretty quick production of vills because they can construct mining camps around mines, and then those can produce up to 4 villages before they disintegrate, basically. So you got some interesting vill options when you're the Bolivians to really boom up super quickly. Yeah, and then in terms of shipments, which will be a good indicator of performance usually. Yeah, Eternity. If Alucard isn't in the game, then Eternity is going to do the best. If Eternity is in the game, then Alucard's going to do the best. It's kind of a flipperoo, really. Yeah, so there's that. Pretty interesting game, though. What do you think? How have you liked all these games, actually? Did you enjoy these matches today? I certainly enjoyed these matches. You know, we got a solid 5 games done today. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, it was pretty fun. Any last words, or are you ready to go to bed with your warm milk and your tea after watching these great games? You know? Yeah, I guess it's time for you to go to bed. Enjoy your warm tea and your milk, I guess. Yeah. Alright, that's fine with me. See you next week. Next week, I think Stefan Mitrovic said he'd be back from whatever chess tournament he's doing, so he'll be joining us again, possibly. Both on Tuesday for our DE games and Thursday for our Wars of Liberty games, yeah. So he's always a great asset to have with us. So glad to see him if he comes. If not, I'll just keep yapping and blabbering myself. Yeah. I guess see you then. Sign off now, and I'm gonna have a lunch meat and cheese sandwich now because I'm starving, you know. Most people eat dinner at 5, 6 o'clock at night. I eat dinner at 9 at night just so I can get a stream done. Pretty awesome. So see you on Tuesday for the next stream.